At 7:12 on the morning of my sister's graduation, Paige stood in my hotel room wearing one false eyelash and asked me to fix the speech, celebrating what my father had done with my college money. She didn't phrase it that way. She said, "I need you to make it sound like me, only smarter," and pushed her laptop across the little round table where I'd been drinking coffee that tasted like somebody had described coffee to hot water. Her graduation dress hung from the curtain rod. Our mother was in the bathroom with a travel steamer, making worried little noises every time it spit. Paige's second eyelash was stuck to the back of her hand. I scrolled past the university's seal and her name in 16-point type. Then I saw a sentence I had written 4 years earlier. Sometimes the life you want asks you to wait, but waiting is not the same as surrender. Paige had changed. Your mother needs you, to your family needs you. Everything else was mine. "Where did you get this?" I asked. She leaned over my shoulder. "Which part?" My father knocked once and came in without waiting. "Please tell me we're not still working on that thing," he said. "We have to leave in 40 minutes. Paige looked at me, one eye glamorous and the other strangely naked. "Leah's fixing it." "No," I said. The room went quiet except for my mother's steamer hissing behind the bathroom door. 4 years earlier, when the sentence still belonged to me, I had written it at our parents' kitchen table while my father watched a college basketball game loud enough to make the silverware vibrate. I was 27 and applying to college later than people were supposed to apply to college, according to every website that tried to encourage me by calling me a non-traditional student. I hated the phrase. It made me sound like I intended to show up to orientation on horseback. I had started working full-time after high school because I was good at office work, and because my father always spoke about college as if it were a nice restaurant we were saving for. Someday, when the timing was right. Someday, when the account was bigger. Someday when I knew what I wanted. At 27, I finally knew. Journalism wasn't a practical answer, so I usually called it communications when Dad asked. I wanted to write profiles and reported essays, the kind where ordinary people became interesting because somebody paid attention long enough. I had been doing a cheaper version of that for free my whole life. Funeral notices, cover letters, anniversary cards, emails to landlords. If a Mercer needed to sound calm, employable, grateful, heartbroken, or sober, they called me. That night, I was working on a scholarship essay while Mom peeled an orange beside me in one long, ragged spiral. "You're making that face," she said. "What face?" "The one where you hate everything you've written." "I don't hate everything. You deleted the first paragraph 6 times. I hate 6 things." She broke off a section of orange and held it toward my mouth. Mom had always fed people while they were using both hands, as if hunger were a small logistical problem she could solve without interrupting anything. I ate it. "Read me what you have." "No." "Oh, come on, you'll cry." "I will not." "You cried at a Subaru commercial." That dog waited a very long time. From the living room, Dad shouted, "Who leaves a shooter that open?" Mom rolled her eyes at the ceiling, though the ceiling had not personally offended her. She was wearing an old blue robe over her work clothes because she'd been cold for weeks. At the time, we thought it was stress. Mom thought everything happening inside her body could be blamed on not sleeping enough. My acceptance email came 11 days later, while I was at work correcting table numbers for a medical association dinner. I read it twice, then took my phone into the supply closet and read it again between towers of cocktail napkins. The state university wanted me, not in a vague someday way, not if the family had no emergencies. They wanted a deposit by May 1st, transcripts by June, and me in a lecture hall that fall. I called Mom first. She screamed so loudly I had to pull the phone away. "Denise?" A woman said in the background. "Are you okay?" "I'm wonderful," Mom said. "My daughter got into college." There was an intimacy to hearing her tell a stranger. I leaned against a box of votive candles and let myself have the whole feeling. Dad answered on the 3rd call. "That's great, Leah," he said. "Which one was that?" "The state school. The main campus. Good program?" "The best one I applied to." "And the account covers it?" Most of the first 2 years if I keep working. He paused. I could hear a pen clicking. Well, there you go. Smart planning. Dad liked decisions after they had survived without his help. He could point at the result and feel involved. Paige sent me 32 exclamation points, followed by, "Knew it, knew it, knew it," although she had told me the week before not to get attached because admissions offices were weirdly political. She was 23 then, living in an apartment across town and taking what she called a reset semester. Paige had attempted community college at 19, then a cosmetology program at 21. She wasn't lazy. Lazy people can relax. Paige pursued every new direction with the intensity of someone evacuating a burning building, then collapsed the first time the direction expected her to keep going on a boring Tuesday. 3 days after my acceptance, Mom fainted at work. It happened near the time clock. She hit her shoulder on a metal filing cabinet and woke up furious that someone had called an ambulance. By that evening, we had words like mass and biopsy floating around the family group chat, where they looked obscene beside Paige's earlier message about half-price margaritas. The surgery was scheduled for August. My orientation was scheduled for the same week. "You're going," Mom said immediately. We were in her hospital room after the biopsy. Dad in the vinyl chair, Paige sitting cross-legged near Mom's feet. A daytime game show flashed silently on the television. "I can defer 1 semester," I said. "No, it's 1 semester. It's your first semester, which is how I know what comes after it." Dad rubbed both hands over his face. "Can we not make decisions 5 minutes after getting news?" "It's not a decision," Mom said. "She's going." Paige reached over and squeezed Mom's ankle through the blanket. "I can help too." Everybody looked at her. "What?" she said. "I can. I know you can," Mom said too quickly. There were practical issues. Dad had no paid leave left because he'd used most of it after hurting his back. Paige's apartment lease wasn't up, and she had just started a receptionist job at a salon. I had 3 weeks of vacation saved, a supervisor who liked me, and an apartment only 15 minutes from my parents' house. I was the obvious answer. In our family, obvious answers did not count as sacrifices. They were more like furniture, useful, already there, rude to mention. I requested the deferral. Mom cried when I told her, which made me feel both loving and accused. "It's January," I said. "Not never. You promise?" "I already talked to admissions. My place is held." Dad stood at the kitchen counter sorting her prescription bottles into an organizer. "This actually might be better," he said. "Gives us time to see how the finances shake out." "The finances already shook," I said. "I have the account." He snapped the lid over Tuesday morning. "I know you have the account." The account had existed for so long that I thought of it as a relative. Not a close relative, but one who reliably sent a card. My grandparents had put in the first deposit. Mom and Dad added money when they could. Once I began working, I added a fixed amount every month and deposited gifts I might otherwise have spent. Dad managed it because he understood investments, or said he did, and because I had been 18 when we formalized the arrangement. Every few months, he showed me the balance on his laptop. He'd tap the screen and say, "See? Patience." I believed the patience belonged to me. Mom's surgery went well, which meant it was still terrible, but everybody used cheerful voices. I slept at my parents' house for 2 weeks on a sectional that separated under my hip every night. I tracked medication, washed Mom's hair over the kitchen sink, and learned that Dad could make exactly 3 meals, 2 of which involved the same jar of pasta sauce. Paige came by often. She brought magazines, expensive smoothies, and stories from the salon. Mom laughed more when Paige visited. That didn't bother me. Paige had always been the family member who could make a room feel less like the room it was. One afternoon, while I was changing Mom's sheets, Paige stood in the doorway and said, "You're scary good at this. At fitted sheets, at handling everything. That's because I have no inner life." She laughed and tossed me a pillowcase. "I'm serious. I would be crying in a closet. I cry in the car. More privacy. You know I love you, right?" It was such a Paige question, warm, sudden, and somehow requiring work from me. I know, because I do. I love you too. She smiled, relieved, and left to answer a call. By October, Mom could drive again. I went back to my apartment and began counting the weeks until January. I reopened the course catalog. I priced used textbooks. I bought a secondhand desk from a man who kept calling it solid oak while we carried what was clearly veneer down 3 flights of stairs. Then the tuition deposit came due. I emailed Dad from work. "Can you transfer the first payment from my college account by Friday? Instructions attached." He didn't answer. I called that evening. He said he was in traffic. I called the next morning. He said the bank site was down. On Thursday, he asked me to come over. Mom had made pot roast, which was how I knew before anybody spoke that something bad had already happened. Pot roast was her apology meal. The worse the news, the more potatoes. Dad sat at the head of the table with a glass of iced tea. Mom kept moving between the counter and the stove, although all the food was already done. "Sit down, Leah," Dad said. I remained standing. "Is Mom sick again?" "No," Mom said. "No, honey, then transfer the deposit." Dad exhaled through his nose. "It isn't that simple." It was simple enough that he explained it in under a minute. The private college Paige wanted to attend had offered her a place for spring. It was a strong program, he said, a structured environment, exactly what she needed after a few false starts. Their financial aid package left a gap, and borrowing would bury her in debt before she began. So he had changed the beneficiary on my account. Not planned to, had. The money I had waited for, worked around, and contributed to was now paying Paige's tuition, residence fees, and meal plan. Mom set the serving spoon down very carefully. Dad kept talking. "You have a career. You have momentum. Paige needs this in a different way." I looked at the empty chair across from me. "Where is she?" Neither of them answered. "Does Paige know?" Dad's expression changed. Not guilt, exactly. Irritation that I had found the question he didn't want. My phone began vibrating inside my purse. "Paige," Mom whispered. "Please don't do this, angry." I took out the phone and watched my sister's name brighten the screen. Then I answered. "Hey," Paige said. Her voice was too bright. "Did they tell you?" That was my answer. I looked at Dad. He picked up his iced tea and drank as if he had nothing to do with the weather in the room. "When did you find out?" I asked. A pause. "About the school? About the money?" Mom lowered herself into her chair. "Yesterday," Paige said. "Dad called me after the financial aid office emailed. He said you were waiting another year. I'm starting in January. That's not what he said. I'm sitting across from him." "Oh." There was rustling on Paige's end, then the hollow slam of a car door. I pictured her in the salon parking lot with her purse in her lap, looking at herself in the rearview mirror while she tried to decide which expression belonged on her face. "Can you put me on speaker?" she asked. "No." "Leah, did Dad tell you I agreed to give you the account?" He said it was handled. That wasn't my question. Dad put his glass down. "This is exactly why I wanted us to discuss it in person. We're not discussing it. You already did it. I made a financial decision for this family. With my money." "With family money," he said. I stared at him. The phone was still pressed to my ear. Paige said, "I thought Mom told you." Mom's head snapped up. "I did not tell her. I didn't mean, I thought you both talked to her." "Neither of us talked to her," Mom said. Dad pushed his chair back an inch. "Enough. Everybody knew Leah deferred. We had a limited window to secure Paige's place. My deposit is due tomorrow. You can get an extension. I already took the extension. It's called deferring." Paige said my name again, softer now. "How much did he tell you was in there?" I asked. "Leah, I don't know. You didn't ask?" I knew it was the college account. My college account. Dad called it the family education account. I laughed once. It came out wrong. Dad pointed at the phone. "This is not Paige's fault." Paige immediately said, "I know it's not my fault," which was somehow worse. I hung up. The silence afterward had weight. Mom reached for the pot roast knife even though Dad had already sliced the meat. "How much is left?" I asked. Dad rubbed his thumb along the condensation on his glass. How much? The first payment has gone through. The rest is still invested. Move it back. We signed a payment commitment based on those funds. You signed it. Yes. For Paige. Yes. So move the rest back and figure out another plan for Paige. His mouth tightened. That would jeopardize her enrollment. My enrollment is jeopardized. You have options. So does she. Paige has tried the cheap options, Leah. I heard Mom inhale. Dad heard himself a second too late, but he didn't retreat. He leaned forward instead, elbows on the table. You know what I mean. The community college didn't work. The certification program didn't work. This school has smaller classes, advising, a cohort structure. She needs more support. And I need less because I'm what? Better at being disappointed? No one is saying that. You're saying exactly that. Mom whispered, Your father is trying to give her a chance. I turned to her. Whose chance did he give her? She looked down at the serving spoon. I asked Dad for the balance. He gave me a rounded number. I want the exact amount. That number changes with the market. How much did I put in? Your deposits weren't kept in a separate bucket. I know how accounts work. I have bank statements. He sighed like I was forcing him to explain gravity. We contributed far more over the life of the account than you did. My grandparents contributed. They gave that money to us for your education, for my education. Originally. There are words that do not sound violent until they are used correctly. Originally was one. I pulled out the chair and sat because my knees had started doing something embarrassing. Dad took my sitting as an improvement in negotiations. Look, he said, you have a stable job. You're moving up. You've been there, 7 years? 8 years? They value you. Paige is answering phones at a salon and she's 23. She needs a credential before she gets trapped. What do you think I am? Mom made a small sound. Dad's face shifted. For half a second, I saw that he knew. Then he moved past it. You're not trapped. You're succeeding. I applied to college, and you got in. That tells you something. You can get in again. I stood so quickly the table rocked. I took my purse and left my coat hanging over the chair. Mom followed me through the kitchen. Leah, wait, I kept going. Please, honey, your coat. She held it out as if that were the emergency. I took it because refusing would have required more energy. How long did you know? Her eyes moved toward the dining room doorway. Mom, a week. The answer hit differently from Dad's decision. He took things and called it leadership. Mom watched him do it and called her silence piece. I told him it was wrong, she said. What did he say? That you were resourceful. I put on my coat. I didn't agree, Leah. But you made pot roast. Her face folded. I hated myself a little for saying it, not enough to take it back. Outside, I sat in my car with both hands on the steering wheel. The porch light came on. Mom stood behind the curtain, not quite visible, waiting for me to drive away so she could tell herself she had watched over me. I called the university the next morning from an empty conference room at work. The woman in student accounts had a patient voice and a keyboard loud enough to sound judgmental. She explained the payment plan, then loans. Then what would happen if I missed the deadline? Is there any way to defer again? That would be a question for admissions. Admissions said I could submit a request, but a second deferral was rarely approved without documented circumstances. Mom's surgery had supported the first request. A missing college fund did not have a neat box on the form. We'd also need to reevaluate your aid package, the admissions counselor said. For better or worse? I couldn't promise either. I thanked her because that was what I did when someone told me no in a professional tone. When I returned to my desk, my supervisor, Maria, had left a blueberry muffin beside my keyboard. Maria managed events as if she were commanding a small, well-dressed army. She was 50, wore bright red reading glasses, and could identify 12 kinds of banquet chairs from their shadows. You look like somebody died, she said. Just my long-term goals. Those are harder to cater. I laughed despite myself. She pulled up the guest chair. What happened? I told her the cleaned-up version. family emergency, financial change, delayed school plans. Maria listened with her glasses pushed onto her head. "We're opening the senior coordinator position next month," she said. "I was going to talk to you after the conference." I looked at the stack of revised seating charts on my desk. "It comes with 8,000 more a year," she added, "and dental that doesn't behave like teeth or decorative. That's tempting. It's supposed to be. If I took the promotion, I could rebuild faster. If I took it, evening classes would become harder during our busy season. Every practical choice seemed to come with hands that gently turned me away from the door I wanted. My phone buzzed. "Mom, are you okay?" Then Dad. "We need to finish the conversation when everyone is calm." Then Paige. "Can we meet?" I answered Maria first. "Can I think about it? I'd be worried if you didn't." Paige chose a diner halfway between my office and her apartment. She was already in a booth when I arrived, tearing the paper sleeve from a straw in tiny strips. "I ordered you tea," she said. "I'm not staying long. I didn't know you were starting in January. You knew I got accepted." "Yes, but then Mom got sick. She got better." Paige looked toward the window. "Dad said you were doing really well at work." "I am. That's what I thought." "You thought what?" "That maybe your plans changed. Did you ask me?" She pushed the shredded paper into a damp pile. "No." The waitress brought my tea. Paige thanked her with excessive warmth, like good manners might spill over and solve the rest of the table. "I can tell them no," she said after the waitress left. "I waited. I mean it. If you tell me not to go, I won't." There it was, a gift wrapped around a weapon. All I had to do was become the person who took college from her. If you think accepting the money is wrong, don't accept it. That's not fair. I almost smiled. "You're going to have to narrow that down. You know I've been trying to figure my life out. You know how hard it's been." "I do. This program is different." "Maybe it is." She leaned forward. "I'm not saying I deserve it more than you. You're just spending it first." Her eyes filled. Paige cried beautifully. Even her nose showed restraint. "I didn't know you put your own money into the account. I deposited money every month. Dad never told me that. Did you think money just appeared because he used the word account? I thought it was mostly theirs. Would that make it okay? No, I don't know. Less bad." I stirred tea I wasn't drinking. Paige wiped beneath one eye. "I'll pay you back." "With what?" "When I graduate. I'll get a real job." "You have a real job now, you know what I mean." "I did. In our family, work became real when it made Dad proud." She reached across the table, then stopped before touching my hand. "Please don't hate me." "I don't hate you. Are you sure?" "No." The honesty startled both of us. Paige sat back. I looked at her scared face and felt the old reflex moving inside me, searching for a sentence that would make this easier for her. I kept my mouth shut. She went to the private college in January. Dad rented a cargo van for move-in day, then aggravated his back carrying a mini fridge down the front steps. Mom couldn't lift anything heavier than a lamp. At 8 that morning, she texted me a photograph of the van with its rear doors open. We could really use another set of hands. I stared at it for 11 minutes. Then I put on jeans. Nobody mentioned the account while we carried Paige's boxes into the residence hall. Dad directed traffic with one hand pressed to his lower back. Mom lined the drawers with scented paper. Paige hugged me in the parking lot and whispered, "I'm going to make this worth it." 2 weeks later, she emailed me an attachment at 11:43 p.m. The subject line said, "Tiny favor." Her first college paper was due at 9 the next morning. She'd written 6 pages about resilience, and the final paragraph ended in the middle of a sentence. I read it twice. Then I opened the document and began to fix it. I changed in today's society to something that meant something. I cut 3 paragraphs that repeated the assignment prompt, fixed her citations, and finished the sentence with the point she had been circling for 6 pages. At 1:18 a.m., I emailed it back. She replied before I had closed the laptop. "You are literally a genius. Then, I owe you." Paige collected debts in a currency made entirely of future gratitude. Her professor gave her an A- and wrote, "Strong voice" in the margins. Paige sent a photograph of the comment to the family group chat. Dad responded with 3 trophy emojis, a form of communication he had discovered recently and used with the confidence of a man who had invented symbols. Mom wrote, "Knew you could do it." I turned my phone face down on my desk. Maria glanced over the top of her red glasses. "Good news. My sister got an A." That sounded almost like congratulations. I helped with her paper. Ah. She returned to the vendor contract she was reviewing. What does mean? It means I'm 50 and have learned not to put my hand into other people's family machinery. That's very wise. I lost 2 fingers emotionally before I figured it out. I laughed, and she slid a folder across my desk. Inside was the official offer for the senior coordinator position. The salary looked bigger in writing, so did the responsibilities. Weekend conferences, client calls after hours, supervision of 3 coordinators who had all applied for the same job. I imagined putting the raise into a new account Dad couldn't see. I imagined evening classes. I imagined not having to check my balance before buying groceries. I signed. The first few months of Paige's program were a stream of tiny emergencies. Her printer stopped connecting to the campus network. She missed a registration deadline because she had read the date but not the time. A professor's feedback was aggressive, which meant he had written, "Please clarify." Her roommate breathed too loudly during meditation. Each problem arrived separately and sounded manageable. "Just look at the introduction. Just tell me if this email sounds rude. Just help me figure out what she wants." I became familiar with professors I would never meet. Dr. Kessler liked direct thesis statements. Professor Huang hated unnecessary adverbs. Paige's academic advisor signed emails with warmly, but was not, in fact, warm. I told myself I wasn't doing the work for her. I was editing, coaching, helping her translate what she already knew. Then she called me during my lunch break and asked what she thought about a reading she hadn't finished. "What do you think?" I asked. "I think the author makes some interesting points." "Which points?" "The points about identity." "What about identity?" She groaned. "Leah, if I knew, I wouldn't be calling you." I sat in the hotel loading dock eating yogurt with a plastic fork because the delivery driver had forgotten spoons. Behind me, 2 banquet captains argued about whether 84 chairs counted as roughly 60. "Read the article," I said. "I have class in 20 minutes. That sounds like a 20-minute problem. Can you please just skim it?" "No." Silence. Then Paige said, "Okay." She sounded so small that I nearly took it back. Later that afternoon, she texted me a photograph of 3 handwritten pages of notes. "Happy?" I enlarged the picture. Her handwriting leaned forward as if all the words were trying to escape the page. "Very," I wrote. She sent me a middle finger followed by a heart. That was the confusing thing about Paige. She could accept a boundary if I held it long enough. I usually didn't. Dad did not speak to me about the account for nearly 3 months. He spoke around it with great energy. He sent articles about adults changing careers. He mentioned a man at work who finished a business degree at 46. Once he forwarded me an ad for an online university whose mascot appeared to be a furious squirrel. I finally called him. "What do you want me to do with this?" "I thought you'd find it encouraging. You sent me a coupon code. Why are you looking for an insult? Why are you looking for a version of this where you helped?" He went quiet. Dad's silences were never empty. He packed them carefully with things you were supposed to regret saying. "I'm trying to move forward," he said. "I'm trying to get my money back." We discussed that. "No, you informed me that it was gone." "It isn't gone. It's being used for its intended purpose." I closed my office door. "Do you hear yourself? Paige is in college. I was going to college. And now she is. This is the reality we have to deal with. The reality you made." He exhaled. "I'm not doing this while you're emotional. I'm at work. I'm looking at a spreadsheet. Then you should be working." He hung up. 5 minutes later, Mom called. "What happened with your father?" "Ask your father. He's upset. That sounds difficult for everyone near him." "Leah." I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling tile above my desk. It had a brown stain shaped like Florida. He took my money, Mom. Why am I still being asked to manage his feelings about it? I'm not asking you to manage anything. You called me because he's upset. I called because I'm worried about both of you. You didn't ask if I was upset. She paused. Are you? I laughed so loudly Maria looked through the glass wall. Mom said, that was a stupid question. It was a little late. I don't know how to fix this. You could start by not treating his discomfort like a bigger emergency than what he did. She lowered her voice. You know how he gets when he feels attacked. And you know how I get. I send polite emails and continue functioning, so I guess there's no danger. That isn't fair. No, it's convenient. Mom cried quietly. She was good at that. Paige cried like music in a movie. Mom cried like a faucet in another room. I softened because I always did. How's your shoulder? Stiff. Are you doing the exercises? Some. That means no. I'll do them. We talked for another 10 minutes about everything except the reason she had called. The new job kept me busy enough to turn avoidance into a schedule. I supervised conferences for orthodontists, insurance adjusters, regional restaurant owners, and one association devoted to industrial adhesives. I learned that any group of adults, given matching lanyards and drink tickets, could become impossible. Maria taught me how to tell a client no without creating a second conversation. You keep giving them reasons, she said after overhearing a call. Reasons are polite. Reasons are handles. They grab one and pull. So, what do I say? That won't be possible. Then develop a sudden interest in silence. It worked on clients. I did not try it on my family. With every paycheck, I transferred money into an account labeled school. The first month, it was $300. The next, $400. I kept the balance on a sticky note inside my desk drawer. $900, $1,400, $2,200. The number became proof that I was still moving, even when I couldn't see toward what. Then Dad's transmission went. He called me from a repair shop and began with, I hate to ask. No one hates to ask as much as someone already certain you'll say yes. Mom needed the car for physical therapy and work. Dad could borrow a coworker's truck for a few days, but the repair estimate was more than they had available after paying the next portion of Paige's housing. The account doesn't cover housing, I asked. Not all of it. That seems like information you should have considered. Do you want me to leave the car at the shop? He needed $1,600. He promised to repay me after his tax refund. I opened my desk drawer and looked at the sticky note. I can lend you $800. That doesn't solve the problem. It solves half. Where am I supposed to get the other half? I almost said, try being resourceful. Instead, I said, I don't know. He found it. I never asked where. Dad paid back $200 in April, then told me Mom's reduced hours had hit them harder than expected. I said nothing about the remaining $600. Silence, I was learning, could be mistaken for almost anything people needed. Mom started bringing groceries to my apartment. The first time, she arrived with 2 canvas bags and claimed the supermarket had been running a promotion. What promotion gives you chicken, coffee, and my exact brand of toothpaste? It was very specific. I let her stock my refrigerator. She noticed the second-hand desk by the window. My laptop sat on it beside a pile of printed course descriptions. You're still looking? She asked. I was never not looking. I know. No, you don't. Mom ran her fingertips over a gouge in the veneer. Your dad thinks you love that job. I do love parts of it. He sees that. He sees what helps him. She flinched, then nodded. I could give you some money, she said. You have money? Not a lot. Does Dad know? Her silence answered. I closed the refrigerator. Keep it. But if I put a little aside, keep it, Mom. Why? Because if he finds out, you'll tell me I caused a problem in your marriage. I would not. You might make pot roast first. Her mouth twitched before she could stop it. That was one time, she said. It was not one time. I also make it when it's cold. It was 78 degrees. She laughed and then covered her face with one hand because the laugh had turned into something else. I went to her. For a moment, she rested her forehead against my shoulder, smelling like cold air and the lavender hand cream she kept in her purse. "I'm sorry," she whispered. It was the first time anyone had said it without attaching an explanation. I stood very still. Then she added, "He really does believe he's helping Paige." There it was. I stepped away and began putting canned soup into a cabinet that already had soup. Paige finished her first semester with good grades, not perfect ones, which was probably healthy for everyone except Dad. He announced her results to relatives as if he had personally sat through Introduction to Communication Theory. At dinner one Sunday, he raised his glass. To Paige, he said, "Proof that the right environment makes all the difference." Mom lifted her water. Paige lifted her wine. I kept cutting my chicken. Dad looked at me. "Come on, Leah. I'm eating. It's a toast." I heard it. Paige's smile faded. "You don't have to." Dad turned toward her. "She's proud of you. She's just determined not to show it." "Don't tell her what I am," I said. He set his glass down. "Can we have one nice family dinner?" Mom stared at her plate. Paige looked at me. "Are you proud of me?" It would have been easier if she had asked cruelly. "Yes," I said, "I am." Her shoulders lowered. Dad raised his glass again. "To the best investment I ever made." No one moved. He seemed not to understand why. Paige put her wine down first. Under the table, her knee bumped mine. I couldn't tell if it was an apology or an accident. Dad drank alone. After dinner, Paige found me in the kitchen wrapping leftovers. "I know what he meant," she whispered. "Do you?" "He meant the school." "I know. I'm not the one who said it." I pressed the lid onto the container until one corner buckled. She waited for me to reassure her. When I didn't, she picked up a dish towel and began drying the plates beside me. For once, she stayed until every dish was done. Drying dishes became the safest thing Paige and I did together. She washed when she came home on Sundays. I dried. We could stand shoulder to shoulder and discuss her classes, my clients, Mom's shoulder, or Dad's latest war with the cable company, without looking directly at each other. If the account entered the room, one of us found a pan that required attention. Paige began calling me sometimes when she didn't need anything. That shouldn't have felt remarkable, but it did. She called to tell me about a professor who pronounced library liberi while correcting other people's speech. She sent pictures of terrible campus art and dining hall eggs with the caption, "This is why tuition costs so much." Once she stayed on the phone while I drove home from a 14-hour conference, describing the plot of a television show neither of us liked. Then her roommate decided to move in with a boyfriend and left Paige responsible for the remaining rent. "She can't do that," I said. She did. "What does the lease say?" "The lease is kind of complicated. That means you haven't read it." I read the important parts. The words are the important parts. Her choices were to cover the full rent, move into a smaller unit in the same building, or find a new place. The smaller unit required a deposit she didn't have. Dad said the tuition payment had left him tight. Mom offered $300 from her grocery money, which made everybody yell at her. Paige needed $1,200. "I can pay you back over the summer," she said. She had a campus job giving tours twice a week. The pay might have covered the decorative throw pillows visible behind her during our video call. I'm still waiting for Dad to pay me back. This isn't Dad. The money leaves the same account. She looked away from the screen. Okay. The absence of an argument unsettled me. Okay, what? Okay, you can't. That's it? What do you want me to say? I don't know. You usually have a second phase. She gave a tired laugh. I'm trying not to. I told her to send me the lease. I read all 14 pages, found the provision that limited her liability if management approved a transfer, and drafted the email she needed to send. The property manager agreed to the smaller unit. Paige still needed the deposit. I paid it directly. The balance in my school account dropped below $1,000 again. Paige mailed me a handwritten repayment schedule. It was decorated with tiny flowers, as if debt were a bridal shower. She sent $50 the first month, $25 the second, and nothing the third because her laptop died. She called Dad about the laptop, not me. I knew because Dad called me. "You understand computers," he said. "I understand how to turn one off and back on. She needs something reliable. So did the Titanic. This is for school, Leah. I assumed she wasn't planning to take it water skiing." He ignored that. "I found a decent model on sale." "Great. I'm short about 400. "No, I didn't ask yet." "You were building momentum." There was a pause. "I'm not giving you $400, I said. "You've become very transactional. Money is famously transactional. She can't complete her coursework without a computer. The campus has a library. You expect her to sit in a library every night? I expected to sit in one for several years." He hung up on me. Paige used the library for 3 weeks, picked up extra campus tours, and bought a refurbished laptop with Dad covering the difference. I learned this from Mom, who delivered the information like a weather report after a dangerous storm. "She handled it," Mom said. "She did. You sound surprised." "I'm not surprised. You're a little." I was. Paige called that evening. "I named the laptop Leah," she said. "Why?" "Because it's judgmental and overheats. I hope it deletes your thesis." "I missed you too." She resumed her repayment schedule the following month. Work became busier and, to my annoyance, more satisfying. I liked watching an empty ballroom become a place 500 people believed had always looked that way. I liked solving problems before clients noticed them. I liked Maria's refusal to treat panic as information. During an event for a restaurant association, their newsletter editor asked who had written the profiles in the attendee booklet. "I did," I said. She looked at my badge. "Your operations. I contain multitudes." She hired me to write a profile of a chef who had lost his sense of taste after an illness and rebuilt his menu around texture. The pay was modest, but the editor didn't ask for a diploma. She asked for clean copy by Friday. I interviewed him in his closed restaurant on a Monday morning. He kept putting plates between us as he talked. Crisp potatoes, chilled melon, bread with a crust, loud enough to hear across the table. He described taste as memory and texture as evidence. For 2 hours, I forgot to be useful to anyone I knew. The article ran under my name. Mom bought 6 printed copies of the newsletter. Dad read it and said, "You made that guy sound interesting." He was interesting. That's what I mean. It was almost a compliment, so I took it. Paige shared the article on every social media account she had and wrote, "My sister is an actual writer. 3 people contacted me about freelance work because of her post. For my birthday, she gave me a black notebook with my name stamped crookedly on the cover. The woman at the shop said crooked looked artisanal, she told me. The woman at the shop was protecting herself. Inside the front cover, Paige had written, 'For the things that belong only to you.'" I closed it before she could see what that did to me. With the freelance money, I enrolled in an evening writing workshop offered through a community arts center. It wasn't a degree. It didn't come with credits, student identification, or the right to sit in the university library looking wounded. It was 6 adults in a room above a pottery studio, reading essays around a table that wobbled whenever anyone made a strong point. I loved it. Our instructor, Celia, had silver hair she cut herself and an allergy to sentimental endings. "If you have to tell me the lesson," she said during our first meeting, "the story hasn't done its job." I thought of my family and wondered whether the reverse was also true. We had stories everywhere. No one learned anything. I missed the 4th workshop because Mom needed a ride to an appointment and Dad had promised to attend Paige's class presentation. "I can reschedule," Mom said when I arrived. "Then why didn't you? Your dad said your thing was flexible." "My thing. The workshop." "What did he call Paige's presentation?" Mom busied herself adjusting the air vent. Her capstone proposal. She's 2 years from a capstone. I may have the words wrong. I drove her in silence. At the clinic, she filled out the forms with her left hand because her right shoulder hurt. I watched her struggle through the insurance section, then took the clipboard. You could have asked Dad to miss it. He was excited. I was excited. I know. Do you? She looked at me. Yes. Mom had a talent for sounding sincere at exactly the point where sincerity could no longer change the outcome. Afterward, we stopped at a coffee shop. She bought me a cookie the size of a dinner plate and asked about the workshop. Not as penance. She actually listened. When I told her about an essay I was writing, she asked what happened next instead of what it was for. The next week, Paige appeared at the Arts Center before class carrying 2 coffees. "What are you doing here?" "Mom told me you read tonight. It's not a performance. We read to each other." That sounds like a small, badly advertised performance. She sat in a folding chair against the wall while I read an essay about hotel lost and found boxes. It was funny until it wasn't, which Celia said was my preferred form of ambush. Afterward, Paige hugged me in the stairwell. "You're really good," she said. "You've seen my writing. I've seen you fix things." This was different. We walked to the parking lot together. "I'm sorry Dad went to my presentation instead of driving Mom. You didn't know? I knew he was coming. I didn't know why that meant you had to miss this. It usually means that." Paige stopped beside my car. "You could tell me when that happens. I shouldn't have to provide live commentary. How am I supposed to fix something I don't know about?" I unlocked my door. You could notice. That landed harder than I intended. For several weeks, she stopped asking me to edit assignments. When she finally sent one, the document was marked with comments from her campus writing center. I typed, "Looks good," she replied. "That is the least satisfying thing you have ever said." I smiled. Our arrangement changed without becoming fair. Paige did more of her own work. I still fixed the important things. Dad still called me when an email required words like, "Unacceptable but legal counsel would be too expensive." Mom still thanked me in private. Paige kept paying $50 when she could, and the debt shrank slowly enough to become part of the furniture. Before Paige's final year, Mom asked me to clear the last of my things from the closet in my old room. She wanted to turn it into a sewing space. I found a green accordion folder beneath a box of winter blankets. It held acceptance letters, printed applications, and the scholarship essays I had written before Mom's surgery. I sat on the floor reading sentences written by a version of me who believed waiting could be controlled. Paige leaned into the doorway. "Find anything embarrassing?" My entire 20s. She sat beside me and picked up the essay from the top of the folder. "Sometimes the life you want asks you to wait." "I remember this," she said. "No, you don't. You read part of it to Mom. Maybe. It's good. It didn't get the scholarship. Still good." Dad called from downstairs, asking who wanted pizza. I slid the pages back into the green folder and left it on the bed while we ate. Later, I thought I had returned it to the closet. In the spring, Paige called while I was supervising a pharmaceutical luncheon. "I got nominated to give the graduation address," she said. I stepped into the service hallway. Nominated by who? Professor Huang and Dr. Kessler, the adverb enemies, the very same. She had to submit a short statement about what her education meant to her. She had drafted 3 versions and hated all of them. "Send me the one you hate least," I said. We worked on it together that night. I made her answer questions instead of supplying answers. What had changed? What had she done badly? What had she learned that she didn't already know how to say? Her final statement was honest enough to make me uncomfortable. She wrote about quitting when shame felt easier than being a beginner. She wrote that support could become another place to hide. 2 weeks later, she called screaming. "I got it," she said. "Leah, I'm the speaker." I smiled into the phone. "That's amazing. You'll help me with the speech, right? Send it early. I will." She did not. 3 weeks before graduation, I texted her. "How's the speech?" "Thinking," she replied. A week later, "How's the thinking?" Rude. 4 days before the ceremony, she claimed the draft was basically there, a phrase that could mean anything from complete to existing as a feeling in her chest. "Do you want me to look at it or not?" I asked. "I do. I'm just making it less bad first. You've seen your first drafts. Why are you protecting your dignity now? This is different." She said it quickly, then changed the subject. Dad had reserved a private room at an Italian restaurant near campus. He sent me the confirmation and asked me to make sure there weren't any hidden issues, which meant I called the restaurant, corrected the number of guests, selected 2 appetizers, found out Mom's requested cake, violated their outside food policy, and negotiated a cutting fee. He also emailed me his toast. It began, "When you invest in someone, you don't always know what the return will be." I closed it. An hour later, he called. "Did you get my email?" "Yes." "Thoughts?" "Many." "Is it too long?" "No." "Too sentimental?" "No." "Then what?" "I'm not editing a speech where you compare Paige to a mutual fund. It's a metaphor. I understood it. It's about believing in her." "Then say that. That's why I sent it to you. Make it warmer." "No." He gave a short laugh. "You're still doing this?" "Doing what?" "Punishing everybody with the college thing." I was in the supply room at work counting lanyards. There were 800 of them in 4 boxes, and I suddenly envied every person whose biggest problem was getting the right name badge. "The college thing," I repeated. "You know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. Paige's graduation is not the place." "The place for what?" "For you to settle a score." "I decline to fix your toast. It's never just the thing with you anymore." That was almost impressive. Dad had taken the existence of context and made it a character defect. "Write your own toast." I did write it. "Then say it with confidence." I hung up. He sent a revised version the next morning. The investment metaphor was gone. In its place, he had written, "A father's greatest pride is watching his daughter become who she was meant to be." I wondered which daughter he meant and did not ask. I considered skipping the ceremony. I imagined waking up in my apartment, turning off my phone, and spending the day somewhere no one knew what I had failed to celebrate. Then Paige sent me a photograph of her cap on the kitchen counter of her apartment. She had written both our initials on the inside. "Don't be weird about it," she wrote. I stared at the picture long enough to become weird about it. I packed a dress. The university town was crowded with families carrying garment bags, flowers, and unreasonable expectations about parking. Mom and Dad picked me up at my hotel for dinner the night before the ceremony. Dad wore a new polo shirt with the university logo. He had bought one for Mom, too. Mine, apparently, had been lost in shipping or in the decision-making process. Paige arrived late with her hair twisted into a knot and dark circles beneath her eyes. "You look rested," I said. "I haven't slept since Tuesday. It's Friday. Thank you, calendar." She hugged me hard enough to make my necklace press into my collarbone. At dinner, Dad made Paige sit beside him so he could introduce her to distant relatives who already knew her. Mom kept checking whether everyone had enough bread. My aunt asked what Paige planned to do next, and Paige said she was applying for communications jobs at nonprofits and arts organizations. "She already has 2 interviews," Dad added. "One is informational," Paige said. "It's still an interview. It's coffee with an alum. Wear something nice." Across the table, Paige looked at me. I said, "Wear the cap." She kicked me under the table. For 10 minutes, we almost felt normal. Then my aunt asked whether I had ever thought about going back to school. Dad answered before I could. "Leah's doing very well in corporate events." I didn't ask if she was doing well, my aunt said. I liked her for 3 full seconds. "I did think about it," I said. "You still could." "She knows," Dad said. "We've all encouraged her." Mom dropped her knife. It hit the plate with a sharp, clean sound. Paige reached for her water. My aunt, sensing the shape of something without knowing its measurements, began talking about online classes. I let her. After dinner, Paige followed me outside while everyone else argued over who was riding with whom. "I'm sorry," she said. "For Aunt Linda? For Dad? Did you put something in his wine? You know what I mean." I turned toward her. "Where's the speech?" "At my apartment. Send it. I want to do one more pass." "You're speaking in 12 hours. Technically 14. Send it, Paige. I will tonight." She did not. At 6:41 the next morning, she texted, "Awake?" I was. Our mother had called at 6:05 to ask whether hotel irons were safe. Paige arrived at my room shortly after 7 with her laptop, Her dress, a makeup bag large enough for emergency surgery, and the expression of someone being pursued. Mom came 10 minutes later carrying the travel steamer. Dad showed up without being invited because he had the room key Mom gave him in case of logistics. That was how I ended up at the little round table, reading a speech that praised my father for giving Paige the future she had earned. She had used the final draft of her speaker application as the opening. That part was good because we had worked on it together. Then the speech shifted. The sentences became smoother and less like her. I found my scholarship essay in the third paragraph. Sometimes the life you want asks you to wait, but waiting is not the same as surrender. My own words looked strange beneath her name. "Where did you get this?" I asked. Paige leaned over my shoulder and pretended not to know which part I meant. Dad came in, looked at the clock, and said we had to leave in 40 minutes. "Leah's fixing it," Paige told him. "No," I said. The steamer hissed from the bathroom. Mom appeared in the doorway holding the dress by its hanger. "No what?" I turned the laptop so they could see the screen. "This is my essay." Dad squinted at it. "It's one line. It's the whole story." "It's not the whole story," Paige said. "I changed it. You changed Mom to family. Because family made more sense for what I'm saying. You're saying you delayed what you wanted to care for someone. I'm saying people have to adapt. You didn't delay anything. I did." Paige crossed her arms over the t-shirt she had slept in. The eyelash on her hand fluttered when she moved. "It's a metaphor." Dad nodded as if she had delivered expert testimony. "Exactly." "A metaphor for what? My life?" Mom put the dress over the back of a chair. "Where did she get the essay?" I asked. Dad looked at Paige. Paige looked at Dad. "You left that folder at the house," he said. "The green folder? It was in your old room. So you gave it to her?" I sent her a few things for inspiration. A few things, old papers, applications. It was all sitting there. I remembered the folder on the bed, then the pizza downstairs. I had assumed I returned it to the closet. Dad must have picked it up while Mom converted the room. "You went through my essays." "Oh, don't make it sound like I searched your diary. You searched my folder. It was in my house." There it was, Dad's preferred form of ownership. Anything within reach became his to use responsibly. Paige sat on the edge of the bed. I was stuck. "He sent it last night. You told me the speech was basically done 4 days ago. It was basically structured. Did the structure have words?" "Some." I scrolled farther. Paige wrote that no one else could carry you toward the life you wanted. She thanked Mom for unconditional love. She thanked Dad for sacrificing everything to make her education possible. She did not mention me. That should have made it better. Mom read over my shoulder. Her face changed when she reached Dad's paragraph. "Paige," she said quietly. "I know how it sounds." "How does it sound?" I asked. "Bad now that everybody is acting like I planned this. You wrote it at 2 a.m. That's usually when planning gets less reliable." Dad checked his watch. "Cut the sentence if it's causing a problem. It's not one sentence." "Then cut the anecdote," Paige said. "I'll use something else." "What? I don't know. That's why I asked you to help." She pushed the laptop toward me again. I pushed it back. "I can't fix this. Can't or won't. Both." Her face tightened. "You said you'd help me." "I said to send it early. I was scared. So you waited until I couldn't say no without ruining your morning. I didn't do that on purpose." "You never do." "Leah," Mom warned. I looked at her. "What?" "Everybody is under pressure." "Who created the pressure? This is not the time." "When is the time, Mom? Give me an appointment." Dad stepped between the table and the bed, not physically separating us so much as taking over the meeting. "You're turning a simple favor into a referendum on the last 4 years. It's a speech about the last 4 years. It's a graduation speech. Nobody takes these things literally. She took my life literally enough to copy it." Paige stood. I said I'd remove it. The rest is still a lie. Her eyes flashed. "What do you want me to say? That I stole your future and had a great time? I want you to say something you can write yourself. You just want me to fail in front of everyone. If I wanted you to fail, I would have stopped helping 4 years ago." Dad pointed toward me, and there it is. You want credit. I felt something inside me go very calm. "No," I said. "I want to stop being erased." Mom sat down in the chair with Paige's dress behind her and immediately stood again when she realized she was crushing it. On any other morning, we might have laughed. Dad picked up the laptop. "Fine, I'll look at it." "You hate semicolons," Paige said. "I know how to write. You capitalize random nouns. I capitalize important words." Despite everything, a laugh escaped me. Paige laughed too, one sharp sound, then covered her mouth. Mom's shoulders started shaking. Even Dad looked offended in a way that was almost human. For a few seconds, the room loosened. Then Paige said, "Please, not dramatically, not like the beautiful crier she could be." She simply looked tired and terrified. I loved her. That remained the worst part. I turned the laptop toward myself and deleted the stolen paragraph. Paige exhaled. Then I closed the document without changing anything else. "You have 3 choices," I said. "Give the speech you wrote, tell the truth, or don't give one. You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," Dad said. "Leah, sit down." I stood, picked up my purse, and walked to the door. Behind me, Paige asked, "Where are you going?" "To graduation." The hallway was cold and smelled like somebody's burnt toast. I pressed the elevator button and heard Dad's voice through the room door before it shut. "Open the laptop," he told her. "We'll handle it." In the lobby, my phone began to ring. I let it. Outside, families moved toward campus carrying bouquets wrapped in plastic. I joined them alone. The closer I got to campus, the more everyone around me looked like they knew where they belonged. People posed beside stone signs and flowering trees. Men in pressed shirts carried bouquets upside down. Women in shoes designed by enemies stopped every 20 feet to check maps. A group in matching university sweatshirts walked past chanting a graduate's name. My phone rang 3 times. Dad, Mom, Dad again. Then Paige texted, "Did you delete that paragraph or just highlight it?" I typed deleted and kept walking. Another message appeared. "Are you coming?" "Yes." She sent nothing else. The ceremony was in the basketball arena. Volunteers in gold shirts directed us through metal detectors and handed out programs thick enough to stun someone. Aunt Linda had saved 6 seats near the center. She waved when she saw me, then examined the empty space behind me. "Where are the others?" "Coming." "You walked?" "Yes." "In those shoes?" They were more optimistic at the hotel. She moved her purse so I could sit. On the arena floor, graduates in black gowns flowed between rows of folding chairs. I searched for Paige among the decorated caps, then remembered she would be backstage with the other speakers. Aunt Linda handed me a roll of peppermints. "You look pale." "It's fluorescent lighting." "You look like you murdered someone under fluorescent lighting." "I didn't." "Good." "Your mother hates paperwork." I took a peppermint. Mom arrived 10 minutes later, carrying her shoes in one hand and Paige's small emergency bag in the other. Dad walked several feet ahead of her. He had changed into a sport coat over his university polo, creating the visual impression of a booster running for office. He sat on the other side of Aunt Linda. Mom stopped when she saw the seating arrangement. "Linda, could you move down one?" "No," Aunt Linda said. Mom blinked. "My knees are bad, and this is the aisle. You can still be on the aisle 1 seat over, not the same aisle experience." Mom looked at me apologetically and sat between us. Dad leaned around Aunt Linda. "You happy now? I'm at a graduation." "You knew what I meant." Aunt Linda unwrapped a peppermint. "Ron, if you're going to fight across me, speak up." "My left ear is worse." He faced forward. The university band played something triumphant and slightly too slow. Faculty entered. Administrators entered. The graduates entered to cheers that merged into one long roar. When Paige appeared, I recognized her by the way she pressed her lips together while trying not to smile too much. Her cap tilted left. She scanned the stands until she found us. Dad stood and shouted, "Paige!" She laughed. Then she saw me. Her smile changed, not disappearing exactly, but becoming private. She touched 2 fingers to the edge of her cap where she had written our initials. I lifted my hand. The ceremony began with the usual instructions about remaining seated, which everyone treated as a personal insult. Names and titles passed through the speakers. A dean made a joke about parking. People laughed harder than it deserved, because happiness is generous. I watched the stage door. Mom kept checking her phone in her lap. "Has she said anything?" I whispered. "Just that she's nervous." Dad heard. "She'll be fine." Mom put the phone away. After the welcome, the university president introduced Paige as the student speaker. Dad sat taller. Aunt Linda clapped before the rest of us, then claimed she had misread the program. Paige walked to the lectern carrying several pages. On the big screens above the stage, her face looked composed. Only her left hand gave her away. It kept bending the top corner of the first page and smoothing it again. "Good morning," she said. Her voice echoed once and settled. She began with a joke about arriving on campus, convinced she had missed her chance, and discovering that half of adulthood was pretending you had read the email. It was hers. I could hear that. The audience laughed. She talked about beginnings that didn't look impressive, about sitting in the library after her laptop died, and about learning to ask better questions instead of better excuses. That part was hers, too. My shoulders lowered. Then she looked down at the next page. "My father taught me that when you believe in someone, you do whatever it takes to help them become who they were meant to be." Dad whispered, "There it is." Paige turned the page. She read the first sentence about sacrifice. Her voice thinned. The arena was so quiet I could hear a cough from somewhere above us. Paige stared at the paper. On the screen, I saw her eyes moving over words. I imagined Dad at the hotel table capitalizing important nouns. I imagined Mom hovering with the steamer. I imagined the green folder open on the bed. Paige lifted her face. "I'm sorry," she said. A small, sympathetic laugh passed through the audience. They thought she had lost her place. She set the pages on the lectern. "I was going to tell you that nobody else can carry you toward the life you want." My hands went cold, but that isn't true. Dad stopped breathing beside us. Paige gripped the sides of the lectern. People carried me. Professors, friends, my mother, my father, and my sister. Mom reached for my hand. I let her take it. 4 years ago, the money that had been saved for my sister's education was used for mine. The words traveled across the arena and returned through the speakers. Aunt Linda turned her head very slowly toward Dad. Paige continued before anyone could decide how to react. My sister did not offer it. She did not decide she needed it less. My father made that decision, and I accepted it because I wanted what it gave me more than I wanted to ask whether it was right. Dad stood. Mom's fingers tightened around mine. "Sit down," she whispered. "I'm leaving." "Ron." This is disgusting. Several people near us looked over. Dad stepped past Aunt Linda. She pulled her knees aside without taking her eyes off Paige. Mom reached for her purse, then stopped. Dad waited at the end of the row. Denise. Mom remained seated. On stage, Paige's voice shook. I spent a long time telling myself I didn't know enough for it to be my responsibility, but there are things we avoid knowing because knowing might cost us what we want. Dad stared at Mom. She faced the stage. He left alone. I barely saw him go. "I'm graduating today because people helped me," Paige said. Some of that help was generous. Some of it was taken from someone who was good at surviving without it. I confused those things because my family did. A murmur moved through the graduates. This degree matters to me. I worked for it. But working for something does not mean you paid every cost. I didn't. She looked toward our section, though the lights had to make it impossible to see us clearly. "I'm sorry, Leah." My name filled the arena. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to stand. I wanted to go back 4 years and answer Paige's phone call differently. I wanted to find the exact sentence that would explain why hearing the truth hurt almost as much as the lie. There wasn't one. Paige looked down, breathed once, and picked up her pages. The only honest advice I can give is this: pay attention to who is carrying what. Gratitude without attention is just another way to let someone keep carrying it. She thanked the class and walked away from the lectern. For one terrible second, no one moved. Then a cluster of graduates stood. Applause spread unevenly through the arena, growing as people realized silence would be cruel. It wasn't thunderous. It wasn't the clean movie moment Paige probably wanted and definitely didn't deserve. It was enough to let her reach her seat. Mom was crying. Aunt Linda handed her a peppermint. "It's all I have," she said. Dad texted the family group chat. "I will not sit through a public attack disguised as gratitude." A few seconds later, he added, "After everything I did." Aunt Linda read it over Mom's shoulder. "He should have stopped after the first message," she said. Mom locked her phone. When Paige's name was called, she crossed the stage with her chin lifted. Mom and I stood. Aunt Linda shouted loud enough to compensate for her left ear. Dad's empty seat stayed empty. Outside the arena, families gathered in bright patches of sunlight. Graduates held flowers and diploma covers. The air smelled like hot pavement and somebody's expensive perfume. Paige emerged from the crowd with her gown unzipped and her cap in one hand. Mom reached her first. For a moment, they stood facing each other. Then Mom slapped Paige's arm, not hard, more shocked than angry. "You could have told me," she said. "I didn't know until I was up there. You nearly killed me. I'm sorry." Mom pulled her into a hug before Paige finished the sentence. Aunt Linda joined them because Aunt Linda believed all family embraces benefited from additional pressure. I stayed where I was. Paige looked at me over Mom's shoulder. When they released her, she walked toward me. "Hi," she said. "Hi. I think I may have ruined graduation. Graduation survived. Dad?" "Left." Her face tightened. "Of course he did. You surprised him?" "I surprised me." She looked down at the cap in her hand. "Did you hear all of it?" "Most people did. That's not what I meant. Yes, I heard you. Was it awful?" "Yes." She gave a wet laugh, fair and brave. Her eyes filled. I hated that my first instinct was still to comfort her. I also hated that I wanted to. She wiped beneath one eye before the tear could damage anything. "I'm sorry," she said. "Not stage sorry. I'm actually sorry." I looked past her at Mom, who was pretending not to watch us. "Do you know the difference yet?" Paige swallowed. "I'm trying to. That isn't an answer." "No." She looked directly at me. "I don't know the difference yet." It was the most honest thing she had said all day. A university photographer approached and asked whether we wanted a family picture. Mom began. "We're waiting for." She stopped. Dad was not coming back. "Yes," Paige said. "We do." We stood beneath a tree with the arena behind us. Aunt Linda held Paige's flowers. Mom took my hand again. Paige stood on my other side, close enough that our shoulders touched, but not close enough to pretend. The photographer lowered his camera. "Dad's going to hate this picture," Paige said under her breath. Mom looked at her. Then to my surprise, she smiled. The photograph caught all three of us laughing. The photographer checked the screen and said, "That's a good one." None of us asked to see it. At the restaurant, Dad's place card sat at the center of the long table beside Mom's. The cards had been my idea because Dad worried 20 adults would become confused by chairs. I had arranged the seating chart to keep Aunt Linda away from a cousin she had accused of faking a gluten allergy. Now all the problems I had anticipated seemed adorable. Mom stood behind her chair, staring at Dad's name. "We could take it away," I said. "No, you don't have to look at it. I want to." I wasn't sure whether that was strength or punishment. With Mom, the two often wore the same coat. Relatives entered in cautious groups. Everyone had either been at the ceremony or received a text from someone who had. The private room filled with hugs, flowers, and conversations that stopped when Paige approached. My cousin Mark shook her hand and said, "That took guts." His wife said, "Maybe today wasn't the day." They had been inside the room for 11 seconds. Paige smiled at both of them. "The appetizers are over there." She was learning. Aunt Linda placed herself near the door and intercepted questions with the efficiency of a nightclub bouncer. "Yes, Ron left." "No, I don't know where he went." "Yes, we're still eating." "No, this does not affect the calamari." I sat near the far end of the table. Mom remained beside Dad's empty chair. Every few minutes she checked her phone without unlocking it. "Did he message you?" I asked. "Not since the arena." "Do you want to call him?" She folded her napkin in half, then in half again. "Yes." She did not reach for the phone. The restaurant manager came in carrying Dad's printed event order. I knew it was Dad's because he had added notes in blue ink and underlined dessert twice. "Who should I coordinate with now?" she asked. 3 people looked at me. I looked at Paige. "Her," I said. Paige's eyes widened. The manager turned to her. "We have the first course ready whenever you'd like. Then there was a toast scheduled before the entrees." Paige glanced at Dad's chair. "Cancel the toast," she said. "You still want the sparkling wine poured?" "Yes." We paid for it. The manager smiled. My favorite philosophy. When she left, Paige mouthed, "Thanks." I nodded but did not get up to check the kitchen timing. It was harder than it should have been. I could feel the entire meal existing imperfectly beyond my control. The first course arrived 7 minutes later than Dad had planned. Everyone survived. Conversation gathered in little bursts. Aunt Linda told a story about being trapped in a stairwell at her own graduation. Mark argued that communications was basically marketing, and Paige asked him which communications degree had taught him that. Mom drank half a glass of sparkling wine, something she usually reserved for cruise ships and weddings. Then an older relative across the table raised his glass. "Well," he said, "somebody should say something." Paige went still. I kept my hands in my lap. Aunt Linda stood. She didn't tap her glass or wait for everyone to quiet down. "I had a speech," she said. "But apparently this family has met its speech quota." A few people laughed. She looked at Paige. "You did a hard thing today. Graduating, I mean. The other thing was also hard, though Linda Mercer is not available for comment. More laughter, including from Mom. You worked for this," Aunt Linda continued, "and other people helped. Those 2 facts can live in the same room if everybody scoots over. So congratulations. I hope the next thing you earn costs exactly what they tell you it costs." She raised her glass. It was not a perfect toast. It was the right one. We drank. Halfway through the entrees, Mom's phone lit up on the table. Dad's name appeared. Her hand hovered over it. "Answer," Paige said. Mom declined the call. "He'll be furious," I said quietly. "He already is." The phone rang again. Mom turned it face down. I watched her eat 2 bites of pasta while every muscle in her neck tried to pull her toward the door. She was not suddenly fearless. She looked miserable. That made the choice mean more. After dessert, relatives arranged themselves around Paige for pictures. Someone put Dad's untouched place card in a leftover container as a joke, then removed it when Mom didn't laugh. I went to the lobby to order a car back to my hotel. Paige followed me. "Can we talk? We've been talking all day." "Not really. I'm tired, please." The word still worked on me. Not every time, but enough to be dangerous. We walked outside. The sun had dropped behind the buildings, leaving the sidewalk warm and the air cooler. Paige had changed out of her gown but still carried the cap. The tassel kept catching on her bracelet. "Dad rewrote the section after you left," she said. "I assumed." He put the sentence back. "I assumed that too." He said removing it made the transition awkward. "That sounds like Dad. I told him it was yours." He knew. Paige pulled the tassel free. He said family stories belong to the family. That also sounds like Dad. Mom told him not to use it. I looked through the restaurant window. Mom sat alone at the long table while the others stood for photographs. She was reading something on her phone, her face lit by the screen. When? After you left the room. She said I should write what happened. What did you say? I said there wasn't time. There it was again. The family clock that only started when truth became inconvenient. Paige sat on the low brick ledge beside the restaurant entrance. I didn't plan the speech I gave. I know. I was standing there, and I got to that line, and I could hear you asking what it was a metaphor for. I sat at the other end of the ledge. Then Dad's part was next, and he was looking at me like... She pressed her lips together, like I was the building he had paid to put his name on. He was proud of you. I know, that was part of it. She looked toward the street. I am grateful to him, she said. I hate that I am, but I am. He kept telling me I could do this when I had a lot of evidence that I couldn't. I told you, too. You also made me do the reading. That was cruel of me. She smiled faintly. I don't know how to hold all of it, she said. He believed in me. He stole from you. Mom knew. I didn't ask. You kept helping me anyway. Every version where one person is completely good falls apart. Maybe stop looking for that version. That sounds like something from your workshop. It cost $180. She picked at the corner of her diploma cover. Are we okay? I looked at her. Paige winced. Bad question. Very. I apologized. You told the truth. And apologized. In front of thousands of people. You say that like it makes it smaller. It made it louder. She turned toward me. What was I supposed to do? Not ask me to grade your apology. That's not what I'm doing. It is. You did something hard, and now you want me to tell you it worked. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back. I thought you'd be relieved. I am. You don't look relieved. I also wanted to crawl under the seat when you said my name. I'm sorry, I know. What happens now? I don't know. She waited. For once, I did not fill the silence with instructions. My car arrived. Before I stood, Paige held out the cap. Look inside. I had seen the photograph, but I looked anyway. LM plus PM was written beneath the stiff black fabric in silver marker. Beside our initials, she had added a sentence. I didn't get here alone. When did you write that? I asked. Before the ceremony. So you knew. Part of me knew. That part needs to start speaking earlier. I'm working on it. I handed the cap back and got into the car. At the hotel, Dad called me. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I answered because not answering still felt like a kind of performance, and I was done with performances for the day. What did you say to her? He asked. Hello to you, too. Paige would never have done that on her own. She did. You poisoned her against me in that hotel room. I refused to fix a speech. You gave her an ultimatum. I gave her choices. You told her the whole thing was a lie. It was. His voice lowered. Dad was most dangerous when he got quiet, not because he would hurt anyone, but because quiet made him believe he was reasonable. I used an education account for education. You used my account for Paige. It was under my control. That doesn't make it right. It makes it my decision, and the consequences are ours. I did not deserve to be humiliated in public. You didn't deserve her gratitude in public either, but you wrote that part yourself. He inhaled sharply. In the room next door, someone dropped something heavy and swore. Dad said, Your mother has chosen to stay there. She's an adult. She's stranded. There are cars in that town. She rode with me. That wasn't a blood oath. You think this is funny? No. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and took off one shoe. She sat there while our daughter attacked me. Our daughter told the truth. You've wanted to punish me for 4 years. I wanted you to admit what you did. I made the best decision I could with the information I had. You didn't ask for any information from me. I knew you. You knew I would survive it. He went silent. That's not the same thing as permission, I said. You've changed. It was meant as an accusation. I hope so. He hung up. The next morning, while I was packing, an email arrived from him with the subject line, "Family Response." He had drafted a message to the relatives who attended the graduation. It explained that Paige had been under stress, that financial decisions were complicated, and that certain private grievances had distorted her understanding. At the top, Dad had written, "Please clean this up before I send. Your mother says it sounds defensive." I read it once. Then I replied, "No." His answer came 2 minutes later. "This affects all of us." I closed the laptop. On the drive home, Paige emailed me her resume and a cover letter for a nonprofit job. Quick look, deadline Tuesday. I pulled into a gas station and sat beside the pump with my phone in my hand. She had told the truth. She had embarrassed herself, defied Dad, and said my name in a room where no one could force it back into silence. She had also waited less than 24 hours before placing another unfinished thing in my hands. I wrote, "Use the Campus Career Center. They know this employer." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I thought we were okay," she sent. I typed several answers and deleted them. Finally, I wrote, "We're trying to be sisters. I can't keep being your backup plan." The 3 dots returned, then vanished. No answer came. I put the phone face down and started pumping gas. For the first time in years, her deadline remained entirely hers. Paige submitted the application without me. I knew because she texted on Tuesday afternoon. Career Center says my cover letter was competent but generic, which feels personal. I waited before answering. "Did they help you fix it?" "Yes." "A woman named Brenda destroyed me and then gave me a granola bar. Sounds thorough." Paige reacted to the message with a thumbs up. For 2 weeks, that was the full extent of our relationship. Dad sent his family response without my edits. I received it because he copied every relative whose email address he could find, including one who had been dead for 6 years. The message described the college account as a parent-controlled resource and my plans as preliminary. It said Paige's remarks were made during an emotional moment and did not reflect the complete financial context. Then he wrote that he hoped everyone would respect our privacy. Aunt Linda replied to all. "Then why did you email us?" Dad did not respond. 3 relatives called me. One wanted to tell me I had always been the strong one, which was apparently intended as comfort. Another asked how much money was involved before asking how I felt. Mark's wife said families made complicated decisions and public embarrassment could never be taken back. I stopped answering unknown numbers. At work, Maria found me staring at my phone while a client argued with one of our coordinators about the emotional significance of beige tablecloths. "Family?" she asked. "Is it that obvious? You have 2 faces when you look at your phone. Family and invoice. What does invoice look like?" Less betrayed. I showed her Dad's email. She read it slowly, pushing her glasses higher on her nose. "Preliminary," she said. "That's elegant. Thank you. You didn't write this." "No, I can tell. There are 4 capital letters that have no business being capital. He believes in important words." Maria returned my phone. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing." She waited. "That's the plan," I said. "I'm trying it. How does it feel? Like I left the stove on." "That's normal." "For how long?" "I'll let you know." Doing nothing created a surprising amount of empty time. Dad did not ask me to call the cable company, compare repair estimates, or explain attachments on his phone. Mom did, but she began every request with, "I know you're setting boundaries," which made the boundaries sound like an embarrassing dietary restriction. "I can show you how," I told her when she needed to send a scan to her insurance company. "I'm not doing it for you. That's fine." She held the phone upside down for almost a full minute. "Mom, I'm learning. You're photographing your sleeve. It's a nice sleeve." We eventually sent the scan. She wrote the steps on the back of an envelope, lost the envelope, and did it again the following week without me. Dad remained silent in the background of our calls. Sometimes I heard a cabinet close harder than necessary. Once, Mom lowered her voice and said, "He doesn't understand why you're shutting him out." I answered when he called. You won't come over. He hasn't invited me. He thinks he shouldn't have to. Then he'll enjoy the quiet. Mom sighed. This is exactly what I'm talking about. What are you talking about? Both of you waiting for the other person to move. I asked him to move the money back 4 years ago. That's not fair. I sat at my secondhand desk with the black notebook open in front of me. I had been trying to write about a woman who returned to the same hotel every year because the staff remembered which tea she liked. Now every sentence sounded angry. Mom, when you say something isn't fair, do you mean it's inaccurate or unpleasant? You sound like a lawyer. No. Lawyers get paid to ask follow-up questions. He misses you. He has a strange way of showing it. He's hurt. I believe you. You're hurt too. Yes. She waited for me to reward the acknowledgement. I didn't. Mom said, I'll call another time. After we hung up, I stared at the blank page for 20 minutes. Setting boundaries was supposed to feel empowering. That was the word people used online. They showed attractive women drinking tea beside captions about choosing peace. My piece looked like an unfinished essay in a grocery list I had no energy to use. I missed Paige. I missed Mom when I was talking to her. I even missed Dad's terrible emails. Being necessary had given me a place in every conversation. Without the work, I had to find out whether anyone wanted the rest of me. Paige broke the silence with a voicemail. I have an interview Thursday, she said. I am not asking you to help. I just thought sisters tell each other things. So, I am telling you a thing. I called her back. What's the job? Communications assistant at the South County Arts Council. What would you do? Newsletters, event listings, social media, donor acknowledgments, some front desk coverage. Do you want it? I think so. That wasn't convincing. The pay is bad. How bad? She told me. That's insulting. Thank you. Brenda said, modest. Brenda sounds diplomatic. There are benefits, and they publish a quarterly magazine. That changed her voice. I heard it. You want it? I said. I might. Then I hope you get it. Another pause. Is that all? She asked. What else? I don't know. Advice? You said you weren't asking. I'm not asking you to rewrite anything. I thought you might tell me not to mention the salary or wear blue. Do you need me to tell you what color to wear? No. Then wear whatever makes you sit up straight. That is annoyingly useful. It was free. She laughed. It was the first time since graduation. Paige got the job. Dad called it a stepping stone, then asked whether she was still applying to serious organizations. Paige told him arts were serious. He said he meant organizations with advancement potential. She asked if he had looked at their website. He had not. I learned this during our first dinner alone after graduation. We met at a Thai restaurant near my apartment. Paige arrived directly from work wearing a staff badge and carrying a tote bag printed with a watercolor pear. I designed this, she said, holding it up. You painted the pear? I selected the artist, chose the printer, and spent 6 hours discussing whether the pear looked elitist. It does seem confident. Exactly. She looked tired but steadier. Her hair was shorter. I noticed because I had not been present for the decision, which was usually how Paige made major haircut choices. After we ordered, she placed an envelope beside my water glass. What's that? Money. How much? 100. For the deposit and everything. Everything is a bigger envelope. It's what I can do this month. I put it into my purse without counting it. Paige watched me. You could say thank you. Thank you. You sound suspicious. I'm adjusting. The food arrived. We talked about her new office, my upcoming industrial adhesives conference, and whether Mom's habit of keeping empty butter containers had moved from thrifty to diagnosable. Then Paige set down her fork. Are you ever going to help me again? I helped you decide what to wear. You know what I mean. Yes. So? I folded my napkin. I'll help you when helping doesn't mean taking over. Who decides that? I do. That seems convenient. It's my time. You liked being the person everyone needed. I looked at her. She continued before courage left. You did. You complained, but you also got to be the smartest person in every room. If I tried something on my own and messed it up, you came in with that face. What face? The one where you already know how this ends. I wanted to reject all of it. Instead, I took a drink of water. You're not completely wrong, I said. Paige blinked. She had prepared for a different fight. I kept saying yes, I continued. Sometimes because I loved you. Sometimes because saying no made me feel guilty. Sometimes because being useful was easier than asking whether you liked me when I wasn't. I like you. Good. That sounded very Maria. I spend a lot of time with her. Paige moved noodles around her plate. I didn't make you edit my papers. No, you offered sometimes. I did. And then you remembered every favor. I remembered because they cost me something. How was I supposed to know if you kept saying it was fine? That one hurt because it was true in a place truth rarely reached. You weren't, I said. She looked up. But now you know, I added. So do I. We sat with that. Paige's eyes drifted toward my purse. I can set up an automatic payment, only if you can afford it. I thought you wanted the money back. I do. I don't want you skipping food so I can feel morally efficient. That sounds like help. It's a payment schedule. Money is famously transactional. I pointed my fork at her. You get one. She smiled. Mom began inviting me to Sunday dinner again. The first 2 invitations included assurances that Dad would behave. What does that mean? I asked. It means he won't bring up graduation. Will he apologize? I didn't say that. Then what will we talk about? Normal things. Normal had become a room full of gas that Mom wanted us to enter without matches. I declined. The 3rd invitation came from Dad. Dinner Sunday. Your mother wants the family together. I read it twice. No hello, no acknowledgement. Mom's desire used as both shield and summons. I replied, I'm available if you want to talk honestly about what happened. His answer, I will not be put on trial in my own home. I wrote, then I'm not available. Dad did not respond, but Mom called within 10 minutes. Couldn't you have just come to dinner? Did he show you the messages? Yes, then you know why I'm not. He reached out. He sent a calendar event with mashed potatoes. He doesn't know how to do this. Neither do I. I'm still expected to learn. Mom grew quiet. Your father has been going through the old statements, she said. My hand tightened around the phone. What statements? From the education account. He's trying to determine how much you personally contributed. He told me that didn't matter. He may be reconsidering. Why? I don't know. You do know. She breathed out slowly. He wants this over. That sounded more like Dad. Mom continued. He thinks he can repay part of it. With what money? His retirement bonus comes later this year. The answer landed with a sensation I did not trust. Relief, maybe, or the dangerous shape of hope. He wants us to sit down, Mom said. All 4 of us. Why all 4? Because Paige received the benefit, and because we're a family, there were those handles Maria warned me about. What does he want in return? I asked. Mom did not answer quickly enough. Mom. He wants everyone to agree that once this is settled, we stop bringing it up. The hope disappeared so fast it left anger behind. Settled, I said. He's trying, Leah. No, he's pricing silence. That's not how he sees it. It's exactly how he sees it. He wants to pay you back. Part of it. It's a start. A start required somewhere to go. Dad wanted an ending. I looked at the black notebook on my desk. For the things that belong only to you. Tell him I'll meet, I said. Mom exhaled with relief. But don't make pot roast. Mom made baked chicken, which was pot roast in a different outfit. The table was set for 5 even though there were 4 of us. She had placed a bowl of salad in front of the extra chair, perhaps hoping lettuce would make the absence look intentional. Dad sat at the head of the table with a stack of account statements, a yellow legal pad, and a calculator. This is dinner, I asked. We can eat afterward, he said. Mom appeared from the kitchen. Or during. Not around the paperwork. They're copies, Ron. I organized them. His organization involved colored tabs and a spreadsheet he had printed in landscape mode. It was the most attention he had paid to my college fund since giving it away. Paige arrived wearing black pants and her Arts Council badge. She hugged Mom, nodded at Dad, and squeezed my arm as she passed. Dad looked at the tote bag with the confident pair. "You came straight from work?" "Yes." "You're still liking it?" "Yes." "Any word from those other applications?" "I withdrew them." Dad's face changed. "Why?" "Because I have a job. You have an entry-level job. That's where jobs usually keep the entry." "Let's stay focused," Mom said. She had prepared for this evening by becoming the person she wished Dad was. We sat. Dad straightened the legal pad. "I went back through every statement I could access," he said. "There are 2 early years missing because the provider changed systems." "Okay." "I was able to reconstruct most of it from tax records." "Wrong," Mom said. "She doesn't need every detail. She asked for the exact amount 4 years ago." He said it as if I had been unreasonable to expect him to remember. Dad slid the spreadsheet toward me. My deposits were highlighted in blue. Contributions from him and Mom were yellow. Gifts from my grandparents were green. Interest was gray, although interest did not arrive in neat family colors. He had calculated that I personally contributed $11,460. I read the number twice. "That's low. It's accurate based on the records. You're missing 2 years. I estimated those years using your average deposit. My deposits increased after my first promotion. Then show me the bank statements." "I can. We'll adjust it if you can document the difference." Across the table, Paige closed her eyes for a moment. "What?" Dad asked. "Nothing." "No, say it. You sound like she submitted a travel reimbursement. I'm trying to be precise. You became precise after you spent it." Dad looked at her. "I asked you here to participate constructively. I thought you asked me because I received the benefit. That is participating." Paige leaned back. Mom reached for the salad tongs, then remembered we were not eating. Dad continued. "I'm receiving a bonus at retirement in November. I'm willing to repay Leah $12,000. The number sat between us. It was more money than I had saved in years. Enough to pay for several semesters part-time, enough to make the account labeled school look like something other than a recurring joke." Mom watched my face. "Would it be all at once?" I asked. "Yes." "What about the missing statements? If you establish that you contributed more, we can discuss an adjustment." Paige said. "And the money Grandma and Grandpa put in for Leah?" Dad tapped the green section. "Those were gifts to Denise and me for educational purposes." "For Leah's education," Paige said. "They did not establish a separate legal trust. I don't think she asked whether Grandma was a trust. She asked what we're doing with the rest." Dad turned back to me. "The rest of the account was funded primarily by us. We were entitled to make a decision about it." "Then what is the $12,000? I asked. "A good faith reimbursement." "Not an apology. I am not apologizing for sending your sister to college. No one asked you to." "You have." Repeatedly. "I asked you to apologize for taking the money without telling me. I've said I should have handled the conversation differently. You didn't handle a conversation. You avoided one." His jaw tightened. Mom said, "Ron, she's right about that." He looked at her. She gripped the salad tongs with both hands. "You should have told her before you changed it," she said. "We have covered that." "No, you say you should have handled it differently, like you used the wrong tone." I knew how she would react. "Because you knew she would say no," Paige said. Dad pointed at her. "This is not a pile-on." "No one is piling," Paige said. "We're sitting." I looked down so he would not see me smile. Dad removed his glasses and cleaned them with the edge of his shirt. "I made a decision under pressure," he said. "Your mother was recovering. Paige had an enrollment deadline. Leah had deferred and had a stable career. The account had a clear educational purpose, and there was an immediate educational need. My need was immediate. You had options. So did Paige." "I had tried the options," Paige said quietly. Dad put his glasses back on. Exactly. She flinched. He had mistaken her confession for agreement. Dad slid a sheet of paper toward the middle of the table. It was not a contract. It was a list of what he called understandings. 1. The $12,000 represented full reimbursement of my direct contributions pending documentation of any discrepancy. 2. The family acknowledged that the remaining funds had been used for a legitimate educational purpose. 3. Everyone agreed not to discuss the matter with extended family or use it in future disagreements. 4. We resumed normal family contact. I read the list. Mom stared at the fifth-place setting. You wrote rules for normal contact, I said. I wrote conditions for moving forward. Same thing with more capital letters. There were 6. I counted. Dad folded his hands. I will not pay $12,000 to have you continue calling me a thief. I didn't call you a thief. You implied it. I said you took money designated for me without my permission. That's the same accusation dressed up. It's what happened. The account was mine to manage. You keep switching between I was allowed and I was right. Both are true. Then why pay me anything? Because I want peace. No, you want agreement. What is the difference? Peace can exist after the truth. Agreement replaces it. Dad leaned back and looked at Mom as if she might translate me into practical language. Mom said nothing. The smell of baked chicken filled the room. Somewhere in the kitchen, the refrigerator motor stopped, making our silence larger. Paige reached for the list. If she takes the money, what exactly does she have to say? She doesn't have to recite anything. She has to acknowledge you made the best decision you could with the information you had, Mom said. I looked at her. Dad looked at her too. That's not how I phrased it. That's how you explained it to me. Mom's voice had gone thin. You said you needed Leah to admit you weren't wrong. I need her to stop attacking my character. Your decision says something about your character, I said. So does your refusal to let this family heal? Paige laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dad turned on her. You've done enough. Because of the speech? Because I sent you to that school and you thanked me by humiliating me. You didn't send me with your money. Most of it was my money. You just spent 10 minutes explaining how some of it wasn't. I gave you the opportunity. Yes, Paige said. You did. And I'm grateful. That doesn't make what you did to Leah okay. Dad's face tightened with something deeper than anger, hurt, clean, and startled. You would have quit again, he said. Paige stopped moving. Mom whispered, Ron, no. We're telling the truth tonight, apparently. She would have quit. She was working in that salon, barely paying rent, changing her plans every 6 months. I watched her lose confidence every time. That school gave her structure. People noticed when she didn't show up. She needed it. Paige's eyes shone. You thought I'd fail without her money, she said. I thought you needed help. You thought she didn't. Dad looked at me. That isn't what I said. It's what you decided, I said. He rubbed his forehead. For the first time, he looked older rather than simply angry. You were always fine, he said. It came out almost tenderly. I understood then that this was the story Dad had told himself. Not that I was worth less, that I required less. In his mind, my strength had not excused the decision. It had erased the injury. I wasn't fine, I said. You kept working. You got promoted. You started writing. After you took the choice away, I knew you would land on your feet. You chose the daughter whose pain would be quieter. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Mom put down the salad tongs. That's what we all did, she said. Dad turned to her. Don't. She's right. You agreed with me. I stopped arguing with you. You helped sign the forms because you said Paige would lose her place and Leah could apply again. And was I wrong? Look at them. Paige graduated. Leah has a career. Mom's eyes filled. That doesn't mean we were right. Dad shoved the spreadsheet half an inch away from himself. What do you want then? He asked me. The entire amount? Is that what this is? I want you to say you were wrong. I have offered $12,000. I heard you. That is real. That is not a word. It's real if it isn't buying something. Everything buys something. You taught me that. He stared at me. I pushed the list back. Keep the money. Mom whispered my name. Dad's expression went blank. Then you clearly don't need it. I need it. Not enough to compromise. Not enough to lie. It isn't a lie to say I acted on the information I had. You had no information from me because you didn't ask. I knew what you would say, exactly. I stood. No one told me to sit down. Mom followed me to the kitchen doorway, then stopped herself. Paige rose more slowly. Dad remained at the table with his colored spreadsheet and untouched dinner. You are choosing resentment, he said. I turned back. No. I'm choosing not to let you rename what happened. I left through the front door. Paige caught up with me halfway to my car. You should take it, she said. I stopped. The money, she added. Take it, agree to his stupid list, and keep telling the truth anyway. That would make me a liar. It would make you $12,000 richer. You've been working at an arts nonprofit for 6 weeks, and already your ethics are flexible. I handle donor relations. Despite myself, I laughed. Then Paige's face crumpled. I'm sorry, she said. I just want something to fix this. So does he. That's not fair. No. She wiped at her cheek. What if he never says it? I don't know. Can you live with that? I looked through the dining room window. Dad sat alone at the table. Mom stood behind him, one hand on the back of the extra chair. I may have to. Paige hugged herself against the evening air. I'm still paying you, she said. That's separate. I know. It was the first time she had understood that without being told. I got into my car. Before I closed the door, Mom came outside carrying my purse. I had left it hanging over the dining chair. She handed it through the window. I'm proud of you, she said. For walking out? For not letting money make the decision? I took the purse. You let money make the decision. Her face tightened. I know, she said. There was no explanation after it. She stepped back, and I drove away. At the first red light, I opened my purse to find my phone. A white envelope lay on top. Inside were $200 bills and a note in Mom's handwriting. This is mine. Please let it be a beginning. Please come home. I drove 3 blocks before pulling into a pharmacy parking lot. The envelope sat on the passenger seat like it had bought a ticket. I called Mom. Did you find it? She asked. Yes. Good. I'm bringing it back. No. Yes. Leah, please. You put $2,000 in my purse without telling me. Because you wouldn't take it if I told you. That's usually a clue. It's my money. Does Dad know you have it? Her silence filled the car. Mom, I saved it. Does he know? No. I closed my eyes. She had given me secret money and asked me to come home. Somehow, I was supposed to hold the cash, the secret, her hope, and whatever happened when Dad noticed $2,000 missing. I'm not doing this. There's nothing to do. Deposit it. And then you have some of what you lost, and I come home. I want you to come home whether you take it or not. That's not what your note says. It says, please. Please is still asking. She began to cry. A car pulled into the space beside mine. The driver looked over, saw my face, and immediately became fascinated by his dashboard. I thought you'd understand, Mom said. I do understand. That's why I'm returning it. I am trying to make this right. You're trying to fix Dad's decision with money he doesn't know you have. It's not his money. That isn't how he'll see it. I don't care how he sees it. That was new enough to stop me. Mom breathed unevenly. I saved a little at a time, she said. Cash back at the grocery store. Extra hours before the surgery. Birthday money. It's mine. Then keep it. I don't need it. Yes, you do. For what? For the first choice you want to make that Dad doesn't like. She went quiet. I don't want a different life, she said. I didn't say you did. You think I'm weak. I think you make me strong so you don't have to be. The man in the next car started his engine, though he had just arrived. Mom said, That was cruel? Yes, and true. Yes. We met the next morning at a coffee shop near her work. I gave her the envelope across a small table sticky with somebody else's syrup. She did not pick it up. "You always make it hard to give you anything," she said. I looked at the white envelope between us. "You don't give me things. You give me things to carry. That isn't fair. The money, the secret, Dad's feelings, your hope that I'll come back and act normal. Which part was just for me?" Her mouth tightened. "I said I was sorry. In the kitchen. I meant it. I believe you." "Then what am I supposed to do?" I stirred my coffee. Mom leaned forward. "Seriously, Leah, you keep saying words aren't enough and money isn't enough. Tell me what is. I'm not writing your apology for you." Her face changed when she understood what I meant. She sat back. Outside, a delivery truck blocked traffic while 3 drivers expressed themselves through horns. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "You can stop calling me every time Dad is hurt. He is hurt." "I know. You can stop telling me that." Mom looked down at her hands. "You can stop apologizing for him in private while agreeing with him in public. You can let him be angry without asking me to make it end. You can invite me to dinner because you want to see me, not because you want the family to look fixed. What if he doesn't want you there? Then don't invite me to his house. It's my house too. Then decide what that means." She flinched. I pushed the envelope closer to her. "And keep your money." Mom covered it with one hand. "I really did want you to have it." "I know. That has to count for something." "It does." She looked up. "What?" "The part where I know you love me." Her eyes filled. "That's not the same as saying the love has been enough," I said. She nodded once. When we left, Mom put the envelope into her own purse. Dad tested my boundaries 6 days later. He texted a screenshot of an appointment reminder and wrote, "Need to move this. Portal won't let me. Can you handle?" I stared at the message. The appointment was for a routine follow-up. The clinic's phone number was visible at the bottom of the screenshot. "Call the number," I wrote. His reply came immediately. "I know how phones work. Then you're set." "You're really going to refuse a 2-minute favor?" I nearly called. Not because he needed me, but because I wanted him to understand the principle, which would have required 20 minutes and ended with me rescheduling the appointment anyway. Instead, I wrote, "Yes." 3 hours later, he sent, "Handled." The world did not end. Maria was less impressed by this breakthrough than I thought she should be. "My father made his own phone call," I told her. She removed her red glasses. "Do you want a cake?" "A small one." "We have half a sheet cake left from the optometrist's. What does it say?" "Visionary leadership. I'll take a corner." We ate cake from paper plates in her office. I told her about Dad's $12,000 offer and Mom's envelope. Maria listened without interrupting. "Was I stupid?" I asked. "To turn down the money?" "Yes, probably. Thank you." You can make the right decision and still hate the price. I could have taken it. You still can. Not without agreeing he was right. Then it wasn't reimbursement, it was a purchase. That's what I said. "So why are you asking me?" "Because $12,000 is a lot of principles." Maria scraped frosting from the edge of her plate. "What were you going to do with it?" "School." "What are you doing without it?" I looked at her. "That wasn't philosophical," she said. "I'm asking what you're doing. Saving. And. Looking. And. I don't know." Maria put her glasses back on. "You're very good at resenting doors from across the street." That sounded philosophical. "I contain multitudes." That night, I opened the State University website. The communications program had changed. There were new requirements, hybrid classes, and a page devoted to returning students that used the phrase flexible pathways 14 times. Tuition had increased because apparently disappointment appreciated inflation. I started a new application, then I saved it and closed the browser. At the writing workshop, Celia returned my essay with red marks covering the final page. "This ending explains everything," she said. "I thought clarity was good. Clarity is good. Instructions are for microwaves. The essay was about the hotel Lost and Found, but it had become about all the things people left behind, assuming someone else would label, store, and return them. I ended by explaining that being needed was not the same as being valued. Celia had drawn a line through the entire explanation. Then, how will they know what it means? I asked. Make the story mean it. That sounds harder. It is. I rewrote the ending 6 times. On the 7th attempt, I described a red scarf no guest ever claimed. It stayed in the office for 90 days, bright and soft among phone chargers and single shoes. On the day we donated everything, one of the housekeepers wrapped it around her neck and looked at herself in the supply room mirror. I ended there. Celia circled the paragraph and wrote, "Trust this. I submitted the essay to a regional magazine before I could turn it back into a lesson." Paige came to my apartment the following Friday carrying takeout and an envelope. "The newsletter went out," she announced. "How was it?" "Beautiful, informative. Contained one typo in the phrase, Public Arts Initiative." I stopped unpacking the food. "No, yes, you left out the L. Our mission has expanded." I laughed so hard I had to lean against the counter. Paige pointed at me. "This is what happens when you enforce boundaries. I accept no responsibility for pubic art. My boss says everyone makes mistakes." "Your boss sounds kind." My boss laughed for 5 minutes and forwarded it to her wife. Paige gave me the envelope. Another $100. "You don't have to do cash," I said. "I like the drama. You could set up a transfer. Then I don't get to watch you look uncomfortable." I put the envelope in the desk drawer. My laptop was open to the application portal. Paige saw it. She did not scream, hug me, or make the moment about what her graduation had inspired. I watched her choose restraint in real time. "Are you applying?" she asked. I started. "To the same university?" "Yes." "For communications?" "Yes." She nodded. "The financial aid office closes early on Fridays," she said, "and the woman in transfer admissions likes people who bring organized questions." "Thank you." "I can give you her name if you want. I'll ask if I need it." "Okay." We ate noodles from cartons at the little round table beside my desk. After dinner, Paige picked up the black notebook she had given me and flipped through the blank pages at the back. "Can I ask something?" "You just did. Why didn't you apply somewhere else after Dad took the account?" I looked at the laptop. "I could have borrowed enough for the first semester," I said. "Maybe more. I could have fought harder, but every option felt like paying twice. Once with the money, again with debt. Then I got promoted. Mom's hours were cut. Dad needed the car. You needed the deposit. There was always a reasonable reason to wait. I'm one of the reasons. Yes." She absorbed that without defending herself. "I'm sorry." "I know. If you apply now, is it because you've forgiven us?" "No." She gave a small laugh. "Worth checking." "It's because I'm tired of making my life dependent on what any of you do next." Paige closed the notebook. "That sounds like your essay." Celia cut that part. "I like Celia." When Paige left, I reopened the application. The personal statement prompt asked me to explain why I was returning to school and what had shaped my educational path. My first draft sounded like evidence. My second sounded like forgiveness. On the third, I wrote about timing a ballroom dinner for 600 people. I described the moment before the doors opened, when every table was set, but nothing had begun. Preparation mattered, I wrote, but eventually someone had to open the doors. I did not mention Dad. I did not mention Paige. At 12:14 a.m., I submitted the application and paid the fee from my school account. The confirmation page appeared. I expected triumph. Instead, I felt terrified. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Your father rescheduled his own appointment. He complained for 2 days, but he did it." I smiled. A second message appeared. "I'm trying not to carry messages. This is just information I thought you'd enjoy." I wrote back, "I did." Then I closed the laptop and let the application belong to me. The acceptance email arrived while I was negotiating with a florist over 12 centerpieces that had become 14 without becoming more expensive. I saw the university address in the corner of my screen and stopped hearing the florist. "Leah," she said, "are you there?" "Yes." "So we agree?" "I have no idea." About the hydrangeas, send me the revised quote. I opened the email before she hung up. Congratulations. The word sat at the top in blue letters above my name, and the semester they expected me to begin. I read every line, including the links no one read. I checked the name twice in case the university had admitted a different Leah Mercer who was better prepared and less likely to panic near floral pricing. Maria entered my office without knocking. "The florist just called me," she said. "Apparently you forgot what flowers are." I turned the monitor toward her. She read the first line. "Oh," she said. Then she walked around the desk and hugged me. Maria was not a hugger. Her hugs felt like being awarded a medal by a government. "I got in," I said into her shoulder. "You did." I got in again. "You did." "I think I'm going to throw up." "Use the wastebasket. We have a client tour at 2. She released me and took off her red glasses. "How many classes?" "2 to start." "Good. You don't think I should do more?" "I think you work 50 hours during conference season and believe sleep is an administrative failure. I could manage 3. You can manage anything. That's how you got into this mess." I looked at the email again. Maria pointed at me. 2. I accepted the place and registered for an introductory reporting course and a media ethics seminar. Both met in the evening, one on campus and one online. I built a budget that involved my school account, freelance work, and the payments Paige had begun sending automatically. Her transfers arrived on the 1st of each month with notes. For the apartment deposit and emotional damages. For services rendered by judgmental laptop namesake, not absolution. The last one made me laugh and then stare at the screen for a long time. I called Paige before I called Mom. I got in. She screamed. Not a restrained adult scream, a full Paige scream that forced me to move the phone away. Then she stopped. "Sorry. Was that too much? A little? I'm trying not to make this about me. Your volume made it about several neighboring counties. I'm proud of you. Thank you. Do you need anything?" The question hung between us. "I need you to keep making the payments you can afford. I can do that. And I might ask about the campus bookstore. I can do that too. Don't buy me university merchandise." I wasn't going to. You were already opening a shopping tab. I was thinking about opening one. No shirts? Fine. Paige, fine. Mom cried when I told her, but she did not mention Dad. After a moment, she asked, "Do you want me to tell him?" "I'll tell him. You don't have to." "I know." That was another new thing. Dad answered on the second ring. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Everything's fine. I wanted to tell you I was admitted to the state university." He went silent. Then he said, "That's wonderful." His voice was warm enough to hurt me. "I'm starting part-time. Smart. Keep the job while you get your feet under you. I've been under me for a while. You know what I mean?" "Yes." He cleared his throat. "I always knew you'd go back." The sentence landed exactly where it had 4 years earlier. "This isn't proof you were right," I said. "I didn't say that. You were about to. I was trying to congratulate you, then stop after wonderful." He went quiet again. I could hear a television in the background. Some home renovation host was excited about a wall. "I am proud of you," Dad said. "I believe you." "Do you?" "Yes. That was never the problem." He waited. Perhaps for me to tell him what the problem was in a new arrangement of words he could finally accept. "I still have the offer on the table," he said. "The bonus comes through in November." "With the conditions? I'm not writing you a check so you can continue accusing me." "Then keep it." "You're taking out loans instead?" "No. 2 classes at a time for now. That will take years." "I know. I could make it easier." "You could have." The renovation audience applauded on his television. Dad said, You won't let me do anything. I won't let you buy the ending. I'm your father, Leah, not some villain in one of your essays. I know. Do you write about us? I looked at the black notebook on my desk. Sometimes. His breath changed. I have never discussed you publicly, I said. Paige made that choice. You let her. I was in the audience. You started it in the hotel room. I said no to a favor. And look what happened. That was the first time he admitted the refusal mattered. I'm starting classes in January, I said. I wanted you to know. Thank you for telling me. We ended the call politely, which felt worse than yelling and better than pretending. School changed the shape of my weeks before it began. There were forms, placement questions, software accounts, and an orientation for returning students conducted over video by a woman who looked younger than my winter coat. My classmates turned out to be adults in every direction. People in their 20s changing majors, people in their 40s changing careers, a retired accountant who wanted to write about local politics and was furious that every assignment required a password. On my first evening on campus, I arrived 40 minutes early. I sat in my car with a new notebook on my lap and watched people cross the parking lot. I had imagined this moment for years. In those versions, I always felt transformed. In reality, my left shoe pinched. I had forgotten a charging cable, and I was terrified someone would ask why I was 31 in an introductory course. No one asked. The professor told us to interview the person beside us. Mine was a 38-year-old restaurant manager named Kelvin, who wanted to become a sports reporter. He asked why I was there. I'm good at writing things for other people, I said. I want to get better at writing my own. He nodded. That sounded rehearsed. It was my fourth version. Good. Mine is worse. By the end of class, we had missed half the instructions because we kept comparing difficult clients. I walked back to my car under weak parking lot lights, cold and wide awake. Nothing had been restored. No invisible balance had moved from Paige's life back into mine. I had simply gone to class. It was enough. The first semester was not graceful. I submitted an assignment 6 minutes late because the file name contained a character the portal disliked. I argued too long in the ethics seminar about whether anonymous sources could ever be ordinary people. I fell asleep on my couch with a textbook open over my face and arrived at work with a paragraph printed backward on my cheek. Maria reduced my conference load despite my objections. You're punishing me for growth, I said. I'm preventing you from becoming a workplace safety incident. One Thursday, a client requested an emergency meeting during class time because he disliked the font on a directional sign. That won't be possible, I said. He asked why. I developed a sudden interest in silence. He chose a different font without me. Paige visited campus once to bring me the charging cable I eventually bought and left at home. She met me outside the library carrying coffee. I spent 4 years trying to avoid this building, she said. Now I'm nostalgic. You use the good bathrooms here. They had full doors. She handed me the coffee. Do you want to see my classroom? I asked. Her face brightened, then she controlled it. If you want to show me. I do. We stood in the empty room while I pointed out the seat I liked and the projector that turned everything slightly green. Paige listened as if I were showing her a house I had built. On the way out, she stopped beside a bulletin board covered in internship flyers. I'm glad you're here, she said. I know. Does it hurt that I know where everything is? Yes. She nodded. We kept walking. By November, Dad's retirement bonus had arrived. I knew because he replaced the roof and told Aunt Linda he was done offering money to people who preferred grievances. Aunt Linda reported this to me, then admitted she had told him the new shingles looked defensive. Thanksgiving approached like a family weather system. Mom called the week before. I want to tell you what the plan is, she said. I am not asking you to do anything. Okay, dinner is at 2. Paige is coming. Linda may come if she decides she's speaking to your father. 50-50. Your dad wants you there, does he? He wants everyone there. That's different. Yes. The agreement surprised me. Mom continued. He said you can come if graduation and the money are not discussed. I waited. I told him I would not give you that message as an invitation. I sat down at my desk. What did he say? That I was choosing sides. And what did you say? That refusing to pressure you is not the same as rejecting him. How did that go? He slept in the guest room. I'm sorry, I'm not. Mom's voice shook, but she kept going. I would like to see you. If you don't come, I understand. I won't call again to convince you. She had not apologized. She had done something harder for her. She had allowed my no to remain in the room without trying to soften it. I'm not coming, I said. I know. You do? Yes. No sigh, no crying, no report on Dad's feelings. Could we have lunch Friday? She asked. Just us? I'd like that. When we hung up, I realized I believed her apology even though she had not said the word. Paige spent Thanksgiving afternoon with our parents and came to my apartment that evening carrying 2 pieces of Mom's pie. She did not tell me what Dad said about my absence. I did not ask. We ate pie at my desk while she complained about donor acknowledgement letters, and I complained about citation styles. Before she left, she said, Mom stopped him from packing you leftovers. Why? He said you'd come by eventually if your container was here. I laughed. She told him food wasn't a leash, Paige said. That sounds like Celia. I may have given Mom a workshop quote. Plagiarism continues. It's family material. I threw a napkin at her. The regional magazine accepted my lost and found essay in December. The email offered a small payment and invited me to read at their winter contributor night. The event would be held at the community arts hall where Celia's workshops met. I read the invitation 3 times. Then I forwarded it to Maria, Mom, and Paige. Paige called. Our council is co-sponsoring that, she said. I didn't know you submitted. I didn't tell anyone. I'm so excited. Carefully, quietly excited. I can hear you vibrating. Can I put it in our newsletter? Yes. Can I write your bio? No. She groaned. Who's writing it? I am. Fine. Send it to Brenda. I might. There was a pause. Is Dad invited? She asked. No. Does he know? No. Do you want him to? No. Paige exhaled. Okay. The newsletter went out with my event listed between a pottery exhibit and a lecture about historic bridges. My bio said I worked in event operations, studied communications part-time, and wrote about the systems ordinary people built around one another. 2 days later, Dad called. I saw the Arts Council email, he said. I closed my textbook. Okay, you're doing a reading. Yes. Were you planning to tell me? No. The answer sounded harder, spoken aloud. Dad was silent for several seconds. Your mother is going? Yes. Paige? Yes. And I'm specifically not invited. Yes. I'm still your father. I know. What did you write? An essay about lost objects at a hotel. Is it really about that? Yes. And us? Not directly? What does that mean? It means I'm not sending it for approval. He breathed out. If I apologized, would I be allowed to come? I looked at the notebook beside me, at the red scarf on the printed final page. Not if the apology is a ticket. You make everything impossible. No. I'm telling you this event belongs to me. I want to support you. I don't know how to receive that from you yet. His voice softened. Leah. Not this time. He did not argue. On the evening of the reading, I stood behind a curtain with 5 other writers while folding chairs filled on the other side. Through a gap in the fabric, I saw Mom take a seat near the front. Paige entered alone, looked toward Mom, then chose a chair in the back row. She set her phone face down in her lap. For once, no one had asked me to fix what they planned to say. The host called my name. I walked onto the stage with 6 printed pages and no one's emergency in my hands. The light over the lectern was brighter than I expected. It erased the audience past the first few rows, but I could see Mom sitting with her coat folded across her lap. Maria was beside her in red glasses. Celia sat on the aisle, already prepared to judge my ending. I could not see Paige. That helped. The microphone carried my breathing into the room. Hotels collect the things people forget, I began. My voice shook on the first sentence and steadied on the second. I read about chargers, wedding shoes, prescription glasses, and a set of dentures found smiling from beneath a conference table. People laughed in the places I hoped they would. I told them about the system we used, each object sealed in a clear bag, labeled with the date and location, stored for 90 days in case somebody came back. I described the calls. A man who remembered his favorite shirt but not the hotel where he had lost it. A woman who insisted we mail her a single earring overnight, then refused the shipping charge. A guest who called 4 times about an umbrella and answered every identifying question with, "It looks like an umbrella." Then I reached the part Celia had made me rewrite. For a long time, I thought value was measured by how difficult something would be to replace. Phones were valuable. Laptops were valuable. A scarf was not. A scarf could wait in a labeled bag because whoever owned it could buy another one. The next page trembled when I turned it. I treated myself the same way. I became the person who knew where things belonged, who remembered deadlines, who carried the spare charger. Being needed felt close enough to being valued that I stopped asking whether anyone could tell the difference. Mom pressed her napkin to her mouth. I kept reading. The red scarf stayed in our office for 90 days. It was soft, bright, and unclaimed. On donation day, Alma from housekeeping lifted it out of the box, wrapped it around her neck, and looked at herself in the supply room mirror. She did not need a scarf. It was June. She chose it. That was the whole difference. I looked up. The room was quiet. For one awful moment, I thought Celia had been wrong. Then someone in the back began clapping. More hands joined. Chairs shifted. The applause rose around me, not like the uncertain sound after Paige's graduation speech, but warm and ordinary and directed at something I had made. I saw Paige then. She was standing at the back wall with her hands together, tears on her face. She had chosen the farthest seat and somehow become the first person I heard. Mom stood. Maria stood because Mom did. Celia remained seated, applauding with the satisfied expression of a woman whose red pen had once again saved civilization. I carried my pages off stage. The host met me behind the curtain. "That was beautiful," she said. "Also, the denture story has changed how I feel about conference tables. Good." My hands started shaking after it was over. Apparently, they had waited out of professional courtesy. Maria reached me first in the lobby. "You timed the pauses well," she said. "Thank you. And you did not explain the scarf?" Celia threatened me. Effective leadership. She hugged me quickly, then moved aside. Mom stood in front of me. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I'm glad you kept the red scarf. It wasn't mine." "I know." She hugged me. Her embrace felt different because she was not trying to pull me anywhere. When she stepped back, she touched the edge of my pages. "May I tell your father it went well?" "You can tell him what you saw. I won't send him the essay." "Thank you. I thought about asking for a copy for him. I know, but if he wants to know what you write, he has to have a relationship where you want to show him." I looked at her. Mom gave a nervous smile. "I'm learning." That was annoyingly useful. It was free. Paige remained near the back until the crowd thinned. She spoke to one of her Arts Council co-workers, collected abandoned programs from chairs, and helped the host move a display board that was blocking the exit. She did not rush toward me. I found her beside the refreshment table wrapping 2 cookies in a napkin. "Are those part of your job?" "No. This is personal theft. Family material?" "Exactly." She put the cookies into her tote bag. "You were good," she said. "You're biased." I've edited my definition of bias. We stood in the same room where she had once watched me read an unfinished workshop essay. Back then, she had told me she had only seen me fix things. This was different. "I didn't know if I should sit with Mom," she said. "You could have. I thought the back might be better." "Why?" "Because I wanted to be here without making myself part of it." That was such a precise answer, I suspected Brenda had been helping with more than cover letters. "Thank you," I said. Paige's eyes filled again. She looked at my pages. Was the scarf us? No. Was the lost and found us? Not directly. Is that writer language for yes? It's writer language for stop asking. She laughed. I like the line about being needed, she said. I almost cut it. I'm glad you didn't. I used to think being needed meant nobody could leave me out. Paige looked down. We did anyway. Yes, I'm sorry. There was no audience waiting for my response. No diploma in her hand. No laptop between us. I know, I said. She nodded. That was all she asked me to give her. At the reception afterward, Mom bought 1 copy of the magazine. Paige bought 3. You get 1, I told her. 1 for me, 1 for the office, 1 for the archives. What archives? My apartment. You don't need 3. She looked at me. I value them. That was terrible. I have a degree in communications, paid for at great expense. The joke escaped before either of us could decide whether we were allowed to make it. Paige's smile disappeared, then cautiously returned. Very great expense, she said. We stood with the truth between us and did not collapse. Dad left me a voicemail the next morning. Your mother said it went well, he said. She didn't tell me what you wrote. I wanted you to know that. There was a pause long enough that I thought the message had ended. I am sorry I wasn't there, he continued. I understand why I wasn't invited. I don't like it, but I understand. Another pause. I'm proud of you. He stopped there. He did not mention the account, the offer, or how well I had landed on my feet. I listened twice and saved the message. I did not call him back that day. The next Sunday he texted, "Coffee sometime?" I answered, "Maybe. I'll let you know." He replied, "Okay, it was not forgiveness. It was not repayment. It was the first invitation from Dad that did not contain a task or a condition, and I let it remain unanswered until I knew what I wanted." My first semester ended with 2 A- and a B+ on a reporting project I had revised so many times the file names advanced into Roman numerals. Professor Grant wrote strong voice at the bottom. I laughed when I saw it. Paige's professor had written the same thing on the paper I helped her finish 4 years earlier. The words felt different when they followed work that belonged entirely to me. I showed Maria. "Where are the missing points?" she asked. I made a citation error. Unacceptable. I know. She framed the grade report in a spare conference award frame and hung it crookedly in my office. The school account emptied faster once tuition began, but it no longer felt like a number waiting for permission. Paige's payments arrived every month. Sometimes they were $100. Once, when the Arts Council delayed reimbursements, she sent $25 and texted before I could respond. It is not much, but I said I would. I wrote, "Received." She did not send hearts or promises. She just kept going. Mom took the $2,000 she had tried to give me and opened an account in her own name. She told Dad. They fought for 3 days. Then nothing exploded. She used part of it to take a weekend trip with Aunt Linda, something Dad thought was unnecessary. Mom went anyway. She sent me a picture of the 2 of them standing beside a lake in matching rain ponchos. "Your father survived making his own lunch," she wrote. I replied, "Visionary leadership." She sent back 6 laughing faces, then apologized because she had meant to send 3. Dad and I eventually had coffee. He began an apology, defended himself in the middle, noticed what he was doing, and stopped. "I don't know how to talk about it without explaining why," he said. "Then listen for a while." He did for almost 4 minutes. It was not enough. It was more than before. I did not begin attending Sunday dinners again. I went to Mom's birthday at a restaurant, met Paige for dinner when our schedules worked, and had coffee with Dad twice more. The family did not return to normal because normal had depended on me carrying everyone across the uncomfortable parts. We found separate ways to see one another. Some were awkward, some were real. One evening, Paige called while I was leaving campus. "I gave a speech at the Arts Council donor dinner," she said. My hand tightened around the phone out of habit. "How did it go?" I talked too fast. I forgot to thank the caterer. Brenda said my ending was competent but generic. Brenda remains vicious. She gave me a cookie. Then you survived. I did. She hesitated. You're not going to ask me to look at it? It already happened. You could send it for next time. I could. She didn't. We talked about Mom's trip, Dad's refusal to replace his terrible roof gutter decorations, and a professor who had assigned me 30 pages on media law as if no one had jobs. At my car, Paige said, "I'm glad you answered. Me too." No emergency followed. After we hung up, I put my phone into my bag beside the black notebook with my name stamped crookedly on the cover. My pages were inside it, my notes, my interviews, my unfinished sentences. The parking lot lights came on one row at a time. I walked to my car carrying only what was mine.